Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto was the heir of primordial Jedi, the Sage of Lig. HT and Dark, Naruto x Ahsoka Tano x Shaak T, Star Wars. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. The Rift Between Worlds. Pain lanced through Naruto's body as the dimensional fabric tore around him. One moment, he stood victorious beside Sasuke, Kagaya's threat finally neutralized after their grueling battle. The next, reality itself fractured, cracks of blinding light splitting the air like lightning through black glass. What's happening? He gasped, chakra flaring instinctively around his body. The golden glow of Six Paths Sage Mode pulsed erratically as space warped around him. Sasuke reached for him, Rinnegan eye widening in alarm. Naruto. Their fingertips nearly touched before an explosion of energy erupted between them. The last thing Naruto saw was Sakura's horrified expression as the world dissolved into streams of impossible color. His body felt simultaneously compressed to a pinpoint and stretched across infinity. Then, darkness. The void lasted only moments before Naruto was violently thrust into somewhere else. His eyes snapped open find himself floating in emptiness punctuated by distant stars. The abrupt transition from battle to vacuum shocked his system, lungs burning instantly as they struggled for non-existent air. I'm going to die in space, he thought incredulously, the absurdity almost amusing despite his predicament. But survival instinct kicked in. Chakra surged through his pathways as Kurama's voice echoed in his mind. Create a barrier, Kit. Now. Naruto's hands formed seals faster than thought, combining wind and yang release to craft a thin bubble of pressurized chakra around himself. The emergenk. Why technique wasn't perfect. He'd never needed to breathe in actual space before, but it would buy precious minutes. As his vision stabilized, Naruto realized he wasn't merely floating in empty space. In the distance, enormous vessels unlike anything he'd ever seen battled each other with beams of colored light. Explosions bloomed silently against the star-studded backdrop, beautiful and terrifying in their distant destruction. His improvised air bubble was already thinning when one of the vessels, sleek and triangular with a distinctive red stripe, seemed to take critical damage. A massive explosion tore through its midsection, and Naruto felt a sudden, inexplicable pull toward it. Not a physical pull, something else, a resonance that tugged at his chakra like a familiar voice calling his name. Without conscious thought, his body moved. The remaining sage chakra flared around him as he propelled himself through the void toward the damaged ship. Whatever this place was, whatever had happened, he couldn't simply watch as people died, not when he might help. The vacuum of space offered no resistance, and Naruto shot toward the burning vessel like a golden comet. As he approached, details emerged. The ship was massive, easily larger than the entire Hidden Leaf village. What he'd initially thought was a single explosion was actually ongoing combat, with smaller craft zipping around firing those same energy beams. This is impossible, he thought, but the burning in his lungs reminded him that impossible or not, it was happening. A hangar bay on the damaged side of the vessel had been partially blown open, its containment field flickering erratically. Naruto aimed for the opening, instinctively sensing it as his best chance to reach breathable air. The damaged field sparked against his chakra shroud as he passed through, the conflicting energies sending cascades of blue-gold electricity across his skin. He tumbled onto the metal deck, his chakra bubble dissipating as he gulped desperately at the thin but present atmosphere. Emergency klaxons wailed, their pulsing red light bathing everything in crimson. Bodies in white armor lay scattered across the floor, some still moving, others ominously still. What the hell? Naruto whispered, struggling to his feet. The artificial gravity felt slightly stronger than what he was accustomed to, pulling at his limbs as he surveyed the chaos. A nearby explosion rocked the hangar, nearly sending him sprawling again. The battle was clearly ongoing, with more of those armored figures rushing past the entrance, shouting in a language his ears recognized but his mind somehow translated. Ceiling breach on deck 17. We've lost the rear deflectors. All fighters, defensive formation delta around the command bridge. Naruto steadied himself against a wall, trying to process his surroundings. Whatever had happened after Kagaya's defeat had hurled him somewhere beyond the elemental nations, perhaps beyond his entire world. The technology around him surpassed even the most advanced devices from the land of snow. He had no time to contemplate further as another explosion tore through a nearby bulkhead. 3 figures in matching armor but with distinctive blue markings were thrown backward by the blast. Behind them, mechanical beings with skeletal frames and elongated heads marched through the new opening, weapons raised. Clankers on deck 14. We need reinforcements. One of the blue-marked soldiers shouted into a wrist device before a red energy bolt struck him in the chest, leaving a smoking hole where vital organs should be. The mechanical soldiers advanced methodically, their weapons cutting down the remaining armored defenders with precise shots. Naruto's instincts screamed. These machines were attacking living people with lethal force. His hands formed a familiar cross seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 20 perfect copies of Naruto materialized throughout the hangar, each wreathed in the same golden chakra as the original. The droids paused, optical sensors adjusting to process the sudden multiplication of targets. Target multiplication detected, one droid announced in a flat, metallic voice. Adjusting protocols. I don't think so, Naruto growled, charging forward with his clones. The droids opened fire, red energy bolts slicing through the air. 2 clones disappeared in puffs of smoke when struck, but the others, and Naruto himself, moved with blinding speed, dodging between the deadly beams. Years of avoiding kunai and shuriken translated surprisingly well to these energy weapons, though their speed exceeded normal projectiles. Rasengan. 5 Narutos shouted simultaneously, spheres of spiraling chakra forming in their palms. The first droid to meet this attack MPLY ceased to exist as a cohesive entity, its metallic body disintegrating into fragments that scattered across the deck. The others fared no better, Naruto's chakra overwhelming whatever materials composed their forms. Within seconds, the initial wave of droids had been reduced to scattered parts, but more marched through the breach. In the confined space of the corridor, they presented a perfect target. Let's try something new, Naruto muttered, gathering nature energy to supplement his dwindling reserves. The unique energy of this place felt different, sharper, more resonant, but it flowed into him nonetheless. Wind release. Rasenshuriken. The spinning disk of wind chakra tore down the corridor, expanding upon impact with the leading droid. The resulting explosion of microscopic W-Eind blades shredded everything in the corridor for 30 meters, leaving nothing but metallic dust in its wake. As the devastation settled, silence fell over the hangar save for the continuing alarms. Naruto turned to check on the surviving soldiers, only to freeze as a new sensation washed over him, a presence approaching rapidly, burning with power that somehow felt both familiar and alien. A figure dropped from an upper level, landing in a crouch between Naruto and the wounded soldiers. Twin beams of glowing energy, one green, one yellowish-green, ignited from her hands, illuminating orange. Red skin marked with distinctive white patterns. Her head was adorned not with hair but with blue and white striped tentacle-like appendages. Despite her alien appearance, Naruto sensed no malice, only determination and a protectiveness that reminded him of himself. She held the energy blades in a reverse grip, her stance defensive rather than aggressive. I don't know who or what you are, she said. Voice steady despite the obvious tension in her shoulders, but you'd better explain yourself before I decide you're another separatist trick. Naruto raised his hand slowly, dispersing his remaining clones with a thought. I'm not your enemy, I just appeared here. Those mechanical things were attacking people, so I stopped them. The girl's eyes, striking blue against her orange skin, narrowed skeptically. You just appeared in the middle of a space battle, and then destroyed a platoon of battle droids with whatever that energy technique was. That's actually pretty accurate, Naruto admitted, scratching the back of his head. Look, I know how it sounds. I don't understand what happened either. One minute I was finishing a battle in my world, the next I'm floating in space watching your ship get attacked. Something in his sincere confusion must have registered with her, as the tension in her posture eased slightly. Before she could respond, one of the wounded soldiers called out to her. Commander Tano, the deflector shields are failing. We need to get to the bridge. The girl, Commander Tano, apparently, kept one energy blade trained on Naruto while glancing back at the soldier. "How bad is it, Rex?" "Bad enough that I'm not shooting this stranger who just saved our lives," the soldier replied grimly. "General Skywalker reports we're facing 3 separatist cruisers. Our engines are damaged, and half our systems are offline." A massive tremor ran through the ship, sending loose equipment sliding across the deck. The lights flickered ominously. "The T was a direct hit to the command bridge deflectors," Rex reported, checking a device on his wrist. "One more like that and we're space dust." Naruto made a split-second decision. "I might be able to help. I can create a barrier, like a shield, around part of your ship. Not for long, but maybe enough to let you escape or fix your defenses." Commander Tano's eyes widened. "You can project an energy shield large enough to protect a Star Destroyer?" "That's impossible. Maybe where you're from," Naruto replied with a confident grin. "But I'm the most unpredictable ninja in the Hidden Leaf Village. Impossible is where I start my day." Another hit rocked the ship, this one close enough that they could hear the hull creaking under stress. "We're out of options, Commander," Rex said grimly. General Skywalker reports evacuation protocols are being initiated, but we won't get everyone off in time." Commander Tano stared at Naruto for a long moment, her energy blades humming with deadly potential. Then, decisively, she deactivated them. "The bridge is this way," she said, turning sharply. "If you're going to help, it needs to be now." Naruto followed her through corridors filled with rushing personnel, some carrying wounded comrades, others manning defense stations. The organized chaos reminded him of Konoha during Pain's attack, the same desperate efficiency of people fighting to survive. They emerged onto a command bridge unlike anything Naruto had ever seen. View screens replaced windows, showing the ongoing battle outside. 3 massive ships, similar in design to the one he was on but darker and more angular, maintained a relentless barrage against their damaged vessel. A man with shaggy brown hair stood at the center of the bridge, issuing rapid commands. His presence and the strange energy field Naruto was beginning to sense radiated power similar to Commander Tano's, but stronger, more turbulent. "Ahsoka, who is this?" the man demanded upon seeing Naruto, his hand moving to a device at his hip similar to what the commander, Ahsoka, carried. "He claims he can help, Master," Ahsoka replied. "I witnessed him destroy over 30 battle droids single-handedly using some form of energy manipulation I've never seen before." 30 seconds until their next firing sequence, General, called an officer from a monitoring station. "Deflectors at 12%. They won't hold." The general, gave Naruto a hard look. "If you can help, now's the time. If not, get to an escape pod like everyone else." Naruto stepped forward, chakra already beginning to flow more powerfully through his system. "I need to get outside the ship. Is there somewhere I can stand that has a view of the attackers?" "The observation deck," Ahsoka suggested. "Upper level, forward section." "Too far," the general countered. "The main sensor array would be closer." Another impact shuddered through the ship. 10 seconds to firing sequence. "No time," Naruto decided. He turned to Ahsoka. "I need to get outside. Right now." Understanding dawned in her eyes. "Follow me." They raced to a nearby airlock. Ahsoka rapidly input a code, overriding safety protocols. "This is insane," she muttered. Even as she worked, "The vacuum will kill you instantly." "Just open it," Naruto insisted. "Trust me." The airlock door slid open, revealing a small chamber. Naruto stepped inside, gathering chakra for what would be his most ambitious technique yet. As the inner door sealed behind him, he locked eyes with Ahsoka through the small viewport. 5 seconds to impact, came the distant shout from the bridge. Naruto gave her a confident thumbs up. Ahsoka's expression shifted from doubt to determination as she hit the outer door release. The vacuum pulled at him instantly, but this time Naruto was prepared. Chakra enveloped his body in a golden shroud as he launched himself from the airlock into the void. The massive enemy vessels loomed ahead, their weapons visibly charging with deadly energy. Naruto bit his thumb hard enough to draw blood, his hands flashing through seals even as he floated in space. The unique energy of this realm flowed into him, amplifying Hai's jutsu beyond what should have been possible. Summoning jutsu. Toad oil bullet. He shouted soundlessly in the vacuum, using Kurama's chakra to expel a massive stream of oil from his mouth toward the nearest enemy ship. The oil, infused with chakra, maintained cohesion even in the vacuum, spreading across the charging weapon emplacements. Next came the fire. Fire release. Dragon flame bullet. The oil ignited spectacularly, the chakra-enhanced flames consuming oxygen from within the oil itself to create a sustained burn even in space. The enemy ship's forward weapons flickered and died as systems overheated. But Naruto wasn't finished. The true defense came next. Sage Art. Ultra Big Ball Rasengan. The enormous sphere of chakra formed between his hands, swirling with combined wind and sage chakra. Instead of launching it as a weapon, Naruto manipulated its form, flattening and expanding it into a massive disc-shaped barrier between the damaged Republic ship and its attackers. The timing proved perfect. The remaining enemy vessels fired their main weapons, only for the beams to impact Naruto's chakra shield. The barrier absorbed and dispersed the energy, rippling like water but holding firm. Inside the ship, Ahsoka watched in astonishment through the bridge view screen as the golden-haired stranger seemingly defied every law of physics she knew. Standing unprotected in the vacuum of space, he'd created fire where none should burn and now maintained an energy shield larger than anything produced by their most advanced technology. "What am I looking at, Snips?" General Skywalker asked quietly, coming to stand beside her. "I don't know, Master," she admitted. "But I think the Force just sent us exactly what we needed." On the bridge, tactical officers seized T opportunity provided by Naruto's unexpected defense. Rerouting power to engines, hyperdrive coming back online, shields regenerating at 20%, 30%. Outside, Naruto maintained his position, chakra burning brightly against the darkness of space. The enemy vessels adjusted their attack pattern, concentrating fire on different sections of his barrier. Each impact sent shockwaves of force through his chakra network, but he gritted his teeth and held firm. "This is taking too much chakra, even with my help," Kurama warned within his mindscape. "We need to end this soon." Just a little longer, Naruto thought back. They need time to escape. He sensed rather than saw Ahsoka's presence approaching. Somehow she had ventured outside the ship as well, contained within a small vessel rather than exposed to vacuum. Her distinctive energy signature burned like a beacon to his heightened senses. Her voice came through some kind of communication device attached to his collar, something she must have placed there before the airlock opened. "Unknown ally, this is Commander Tano. Our systems are coming back online. We're preparing to jump to hyperspace. You need to get back inside immediately." Naruto couldn't respond verbally in the vacuum, but he nodded, knowing she could see him. With a final surge of chakra, he expanded the barrier to its maximum size, buying precious seconds for the ship's systems to complete their restart. The strain proved almost too much. Darkness edged into his vision as oxygen deprivation and chakra exhaustion took their toll. His body had already been depleted from the battle with Kagaya, and these new techniques pushed him to his absolute limit. Just as his consciousness began to fade, Naruto felt himself being pulled backward. Ahsoka had maneuvered her small craft behind him, using some kind of energy beam to draw him inside. The last thing he saw before the barrier finally collapsed was the Republic. IC vessel's engines flaring brilliantly to life. Then darkness claimed him once more. Consciousness returned in fragments. First came sensation. The cool surface beneath him, the mechanical hum of unknown devices. The sterile smell of what his mind categorized as a medical facility. Then sound. Measured beeping, soft conversation in that strange yet understandable language, the subtle vibration of powerful engines. Naruto opened his eyes to find himself lying on a bed in what was indeed some kind of medical bay. Various machines surrounded him, displaying readouts he couldn't begin to comprehend. A transparent mask covered the lower half of his face, providing oxygen-enriched air to his healing lungs. "He's awake," came a female voice, Ahsoka's. Naruto turned his head to see her sitting beside his bed, her earlier combat readiness replaced by guarded curiosity. Behind her stood the general from the bridge, arms crossed as he studied Naruto with undisguised suspicion. "How are you feeling?" Ahsoka asked, leaning forward slightly. Naruto removed the breathing mask, noting how his body already felt significantly recovered. Kurama's healing abilities combined with his Uzumaki vitality were working overtime. Like I picked a fight with all 5 kage at once, he answered honestly, his voice slightly raspy. But all live. Did everyone make it? A flicker of surprise crossed Ahsoka's features. Yes. Thanks to you, we were able to jump to hyperspace with minimal casualties. You saved hundreds of lives. The general, still unnamed, stepped forward. Which brings us to the obvious question. Who exactly are you, and how did you perform those feats out there? No Jedi I know can generate fire in vacuum or create an energy barrier of that magnitude. Naruto sat up slowly, testing his recovering body. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I'm a shinobi from Konohagakure, the village hidden in the leaves. As for what I did, he shrugged. Just basic ninjutsu, though I've never had to adapt it for space before. Basic ninjutsu, the general repeated skeptically. You stood unprotected in the vacuum of space, created fire where no oxygen exists, and projected an energy barrier strong enough to block turbolaser fire from 3 Providence-class dreadnoughts. There's nothing basic about any of that. Naruto sensed the man's suspicion but also his genuine curiosity. Where I come from, these abilities aren't that unusual. Well, maybe the scale is a bit impressive, he admitted with a small grin. But chakra manipulation is something all shinobi learn. Chakra, Ahsoka repeated, the word clearly unfamiliar to her. The energy within all living things, Naruto explained. It's a combination of physical and spiritual energy that we can shape and control through training. The general and Ahsoka exchanged a significant look. He's describing the Force, Ahsoka said quietly. But not as we understand it. Perhaps, the general replied, his suspicion not entirely gone but now tempered with genuine interest. The Force manifests differently across the galaxy. Some cultures have unique traditions unknown to the Jedi Order. Naruto looked between them, sensing he was missing important context. What's the Force, and what's a Jedi? This question seemed to surprise them both. You don't know what the Jedi are? Ahsoka asked incredulously, even after using the Force so powerfully. I told you, Naruto said patiently, where I'm from, we call it chakra. And I've never heard of Jedi before today. The general studied him for a long moment before seemingly coming to a decision. I'm Anakin Skywalker, Jedi Knight and General in the Grand Army of the Republic. This is my Padawan, my apprentice, Ahsoka Tano. The Jedi are peacekeepers and guardians of the Republic, and we use the Force to help maintain balance and justice throughout the galaxy. The formal introduction struck Naruto as slightly odd given the circumstances, but he respected the gesture. Nice to meet you properly, he replied with a small bow of his head. So, where exactly am I? This clearly isn't the elemental nations. You're aboard the Republic Star Destroyer Resolute, Anakin explained. Currently traveling through hyperspace toward Coruscant, the capital of the Galactic Republic. The words meant almost nothing to Naruto. Hyperspace. Galactic Republic. I don't even know what galaxy we're in. Quote. This statement caused another concerned exchange of glances between the two Jedi. You really don't know where you are, do you? Ahsoka said softly, more statement than question. Naruto shook his head. The last thing I remember before appearing near your ship was finishing a battle against an extremely powerful enemy. There was some kind of dimensional distortion when we sealed her away. I think I might have been pulled into another world entirely. Another world, Anakin repeated skeptically. You mean another planet? No, Naruto said firmly. Another dimension, another reality. Your stars, your planets, your galaxy, none of it exists where I come from. Or if it does, we've never discovered it. The concept clearly stretched credibility for both Jedi. But they didn't dismiss it outright. The Force works in mysterious ways, Ahsoka said finally. And your energy signature is unlike anything I've ever felt before. It's both light and dark simultaneously, yet corrupted by neither. Anakin nodded slowly. The Council will want to meet him. If what he's saying is true, or even partially true, this could have significant implications. The Council? Naruto asked. The Jedi Council, Ahsoka explained. The wisest and most powerful Jedi Masters who guide the Order. If anyone can help understand what happened to you, it would be them. Naruto considered this. Finding a way home was obviously his priority, but he had no idea where to start. These Jedi, with their understanding of this force, that seemed similar yet different from Chakra, might be his best option. All right, he agreed. I'll meet with your council. But first, can you tell me more about where I am? This galaxy, and why those mechanical beings were attacking you. Anakin checked a device on his wrist. We have approximately 6 hours before we reach Coruscant. That should be enough time for a basic overview. I can handle the history lesson, Master, Ahsoka offered. You should check on the ship repairs. Anakin hesitated, clearly reluctant to leave his apprentice alone with their mysterious visitor. I promise not to cause any trouble, Naruto said, reading his concern. I owe you for pulling me back into the ship anyway. Without that, I'd probably still be floating in space. That was Ahsoka's doing, Anakin admitted. She insisted on taking a fighter out to retrieve you personally. He studied Naruto for another moment before nodding to Ahsoka. Keep your comlink active. I'll have Rex post guards outside, just as a precaution. Yes, Master, Ahsoka replied with a slight hint of exasperation that suggested this was a common dynamic between them. After Anakin left, Naruto turned to Ahsoka. He's protective of you. He's overprotective, she corrected, though her tone held more affection than annoyance. But he's the best Jedi I know, even if he doesn't always follow the rules. Naruto grinned. I can relate to that. I've never been much for following rules either. Ahsoka returned his smile cautiously. So, where should we start? Galactic geography, recent history, the nature of the Force. How about with these? Naruto suggested, pointing to the deactivated energy weapons hanging from Ahsoka's belt. Those light blade things seemed pretty effective. Lightsabers, Ahsoka corrected, unclipping one from her belt and holding it out for him to see without activating it. They're the traditional weapon of the Jedi. The blade is pure plasma contained within a force field, capable of cutting through almost anything except another lightsaber blade or certain specialized materials. Naruto whistled appreciatively. We have nothing like that at home. Our weapons are much more conventional. Kunai, shuriken, swords. You didn't seem to need weapons out there, Ahsoka pointed out. Those energy techniques of yours were more destructive than anything I've seen outside of heavy artillery. That's ninjutsu for you, Naruto said with a hint of pride. Though I'm more of a close combat specialist usually. The big techniques drain chakra quickly. Ahsoka tilted her head curiously. You keep saying chakra instead of the Force. Can you explain the difference as you understand it? Naruto considered how best to explain. Chakra is the energy created when physical energy from every cell in the body combines with spiritual energy. We can mold it through hand seals and concentration to perform jutsu, techniques that manipulate elements or create various effects. Everyone has chakra, bu. Chi shinobi trained to increase their reserves and control. He created a small Rasengan in his palm as demonstration, the swirling blue sphere casting gentle light across the medical bay. This is pure chakra manipulation without an elemental nature. Ahsoka's eyes widened as she observed the technique. That's remarkable control. Jedi understand the Force as an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, penetrates us, and binds the galaxy together. Those sensitive to it can feel its currents and, with training, manipulate it to move objects, enhance physical abilities, sense emotions and intentions. Even glimpse possible futures. She demonstrated by lifting a nearby medical instrument with a subtle gesture, the item floating gently into her outstretched hand. We can do something similar, Naruto said, though it usually requires more visible effort. He formed seals and whispered, wind release, gentle lift, creating a small current of air that carried the instrument back to its original position. The exchange continued for some time, with both young warriors sharing the fundamentals of their respective abilities. Despite the differences in terminology and approach, Naruto began to sense underlying similarities between chakra and the Force, though chakra seemed more structured in its application while the Force was more intuitive. So you're fighting a war, Naruto summarized after Ahsoka explained the current galactic conflict. Against separatists led by someone called Count Dooku, who used to be one of you but turned to the dark side of the Force. Ahsoka nodded. The Separatist Alliance claims they're fighting against Republic corruption, but they've committed countless atrocities. Those battle droids you destroyed are their standard troops, mass-produced, expendable, and programmed to kill. And the Jedi serve as generals for the Republic's army. I thought you said they were peacekeepers. A shadow crossed Ahsoka's face. We're supposed to be. But the war changed things. Some Jedi believe we've strayed from our true purpose by becoming military leaders. Do you believe that? Naruto asked gently. Ahsoka hesitated. I don't know. I was very young when the war started. Being a commander is all I've really known as a Padawan. She straightened, as if catching herself revealing too much. But that's not important. What matters is ending the conflict with minimal loss of life. Naruto recognized deflection when he heard it. He'd used the technique often enough himself when uncomfortable topics arose. Rather than press, he changed the subject. This Coruscant place, what's it like? The relief in Ahsoka's expression confirmed he'd made the right choice. It's a city planet. One continuous urban landscape covering the entire surface. Trillions of beings from thousands of species live there. The Jedi Temple has stood for over 1,000 years, housing both the Council and our training facilities. Sounds overwhelming, Naruto admitted. The hidden leaf is tiny in comparison. Tell me about your home, Ahsoka suggested, genuine curiosity in her voice. Naruto described Konoha, the Hokage Monument, the Academy, Ichiraku Ramen, the surrounding forests. He explained the shinobi system, the 5 great nations, and gave a carefully edited version of recent events, including the 4th Great Ninja War. But omitting specifics about the tailed beasts and his status as a Jinchuriki. So you were fighting in a war too, Ahsoka observed. That explains your combat skills. Naruto nodded. It just ended, actually. We had finally defeated the mastermind behind everything when, whatever happened, happened. And your friends, they must think you're dead, maybe. Naruto's expression sobered. Oh, or they might believe I was transported somewhere. Dimensional techniques aren't completely unknown in my world, though they're incredibly rare and dangerous. A comfortable silence fell between them, each processing the enormity of their exchange. Despite their vastly different backgrounds, Naruto found himself warming to Ahsoka. There was something familiar in her determination, her slight rebellious streak, and the underlying compassion that guided her actions. You don't seem very afraid, Ahsoka noted after a while. Being stranded in an entirely different dimension. Naruto shrugged. I've faced worse odds. Besides, fear doesn't help solve problems, it just makes them harder to think through. That sounds like something a Jedi would say, Ahsoka remarked with a small smile. There is no emotion, there is peace. It's part of our code. We don't have anything that formal, Naruto replied. But my sensei always said that a ninja who abandons their mission is trash, but a ninja who abandons their friends is worse than trash. That's the philosophy I live by. Friends over mission, Ahsoka mused. That's not exactly the Jedi way. We're taught to prioritize the greater good. To avoid personal attachments that might cloud our judgment. No attachments at all, Naruto asked, surprised. That sounds lonely. It can be, Ahsoka admitted quietly. But it's meant to prevent Jedi from falling to the dark side through fear of loss or desire for power to protect loved ones. Naruto frowned. Where I'm from, it's our bonds that give us strength. The desire to protect precious people has helped me overcome challenges I could never have faced alone. This statement seemed to resonate with Ahsoka, though she didn't immediately respond. Instead, she glanced at a display showing Naruto's medical readings. Your recovery rate is remarkable, she observed, changing the subject. The medical droid estimated you'd be bedridden for at least a day after the oxygen deprivation and energy expenditure you experienced. Naruto grinned. Fast healing runs in the family. Not entirely a lie, though not the complete truth about Kurama's influence. Before Ahsoka could inquire further, the medical bay doors slid open to admit a clone trooper, distinguishable from others Naruto had seen by blue markings on his armor and a small fin-like attachment on his helmet. Commander, the trooper said, his voice identical to the one called Rex earlier. General Skywalker requests your presence on the bridge. We've received a priority transmission from the Council. Thank you, Rex, Ahsoka replied, standing. I'll be right there. She turned to Naruto. I should go. Will you be all right here for a while? Naruto nodded. Go ahead. I could use some rest anyway. After Ahsoka and Rex departed, Naruto closed his eyes, focusing inward to his mindscape. Kurama's massive form greeted him, the nine-tailed fox resting with his head on his paws. Quite the predicament you've gotten us into this time, Kit. The fox rumbled. This wasn't exactly my idea, Naruto retorted without heat. What do you make of all this? This force they keep talking about. Kurama's tail swished thoughtfully. It's similar to chakra but more primordial. Less structured, more intuitive. When you drew on the ambient energy outside the ship, didn't you notice how easily it flowed into your techniques? Now that you mention it, yeah. It felt almost eager to be shaped, like it was waiting for direction. This place is saturated with natural energy unlike anything in our world, ***, Kurama continued. Even I can feel it resonating with my chakra. There's something familiar about it, though I can't explain why. Could it help us get home? Perhaps. But I sense we weren't brought here by accident, Naruto. There's purpose behind this transition, a resonance I've felt only once before, when the Sage of Six Paths appeared to us during the war. This revelation startled Naruto. You think Old Man Six Paths had something to do with this? I don't know, ***, Kurama admitted. But these Jedi, and their understanding of this force, the peril. Else to the sage's teachings are too significant to ignore. Naruto pondered this as he drifted back to full consciousness. If Kurama was right, if there was indeed a purpose behind his arrival, then perhaps meeting with the Jedi Council was more important than he'd initially thought. Outside the medical bay, he sensed two clone troopers standing guard. Beyond them, throughout the massive vessel, thousands of presences flickered in his awareness, each distinct, each carrying unique emotions and intentions. This heightened sensitivity was new, perhaps a side effect of the different natural energy in this dimension interacting with his sage abilities. Naruto closed his eyes again, this time extending his senses further. The ship itself seemed to pulse with mechanical life, its systems creating patterns that his mind translated as a kind of technological chakra network. Beyond the hull, the swirling energies of what they called hyperspace created a cocoon of distorted reality, beautiful and terrifying in its power. And further still, at the very edges of his perception, something ancient stirred. Something that recognized him, even as he failed to recognize it. Something that whispered in a voice too distant to comprehend but too familiar to ignore. What have I gotten myself into? Naruto murmured to the empty room. The soft beeping of medical equipment was his only answer. Hours later, Naruto stood on the bridge of the Resolute, watching through the massive viewport as they reverted from hyperspace. The tunnel of swirling blue energy collapsed into streaks of light that resolved into stars. And before them appeared a sight that took his breath away. Coruscant hung in space like a gleaming jewel, its entire surface covered in lights that traced the outlines of impossibly vast cities. Even from orbit, the scale of urbanization dwarfed anything Naruto had ever imagined. Thousands of vessels moved in precise patterns around the planet, from tiny personal craft to massive ships rivaling the Resolute itself. Impressive, isn't it? Anakin asked, stepping up beside him. It's incredible, Naruto admitted. How many people live there? Over 1 trillion. Spread across 5,000 levels in some areas of the city, Anakin replied. It's been the capital of the Republic for over 25,000 years. Numbers that large meant nothing to Naruto, they were simply too vast to comprehend. Instead, he focused on the patterns of energy he could sense even from orbit. Billions of lives intertwined in a tapestry of light and shadow, joy and suffering, hope and despair. The Council has requested your presence as soon as we land, Anakin continued. They're intrigued by Ahsoka's report of your abilities. Just intrigued? Naruto asked with a knowing smile. Anakin's lips quirked slightly. Let's say, cautiously concerned, might be more accurate. Beings appearing from nowhere with unprecedented powers tend to make the Council nervous. Can't blame them, Naruto replied. I'd be suspicious too. Their conversation was interrupted by Ahsoka's approach. She had changed from her battle-worn attire into fresher versions of the same style. Though Naruto noted she still carried her lightsabers at her hip. We've been cleared for priority landing at the temple hangar, she informed Anakin. Master Yoda, Master Windu, and Master Kenobi are already assembled. Only 3 council members? Anakin asked, surprise evident in his voice. Initial assessment only, Ahsoka explained. Master Yoda thought it might be less intimidating. Naruto sensed there was more to this decision than a concern for his comfort, but he kept the observation to himself. As they began the landing sequence, he took the opportunity to center himself, focusing on the unique energy signatures of those around him. Anakin burned like a supernova in his awareness, blindingly powerful but with curious shadows swirling at his core. Ahsoka's presence was clearer, her energy pure but complex, like sunlight through stained glass. The ship docked with practiced precision at what Naruto assumed was the Jedi Temple, a massive pyramidal structure dominating its section of the urban landscape. As they disembarked, Naruto got his first proper look at a truly alien world. The architecture, the technology, even the air itself felt fundamentally different from anything in the elemental nations. This way, Anakin directed, leading them through corridors of polished stone illuminated by soft, natural light. Despite the artificial nature of everything around them, the temple possessed a serene quality that reminded Naruto of the more peaceful areas of Konoha. They passed numerous Jedi of various species, many of whom cast curious glances at Naruto. His distinctive appearance, the orange and black clothing, his headband with the leaf symbol, the whisker marks on his cheeks, clearly marked him as an outsider even in this diverse gathering. Finally, they reached a set of ornate doors that slid open silently at their approach. The chamber beyond was simple yet elegant, a circular room with large windows overlooking the endless cityscape, and 3 seats arranged in a semicircle. In those seats waited 3 beings as different from each other as possible. One was human, dark-skinned and stern-faced, with a shaved head and penetrating gaze. Another appeared human as well, with reddish hair and a well-trimmed beard, his expression thoughtful but welcoming. The third was unlike any creature Naruto had ever seen, small and green with long pointed ears. Ancient beyond reckoning yet somehow childlike in appearance. It was this third being whose energy signature struck Naruto most profoundly. Unlike Anakin's chaotic power, this ancient Moss Chair's presence felt like the depth of the ocean, calm on the surface but concealing unfathomable power beneath. More remarkably, Naruto sensed an immediate recognition from this being, not of him personally, but of something within him. Masters, Anakin said formally, bowing slightly. This is Naruto Uzumaki, the individual we encountered during the battle near Bothawui. The bearded human rose first, approaching with a warm smile and extended hand. I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi. Anakin has told us much about your timely intervention. The Republic owes you a debt of gratitude. Naruto accepted the handshake, noting the strength and calluses that belied the man's cultured appearance. I just did what anyone would do, standing unprotected in space to create an energy barrier capable of deflecting capital ship weaponry. The dark-skinned man said, remaining seated. I think not. I am Mace Windu, Master of the Jedi Order. A pleasure, Naruto replied, sensing this was a being who valued directness over pleasantries. The small green master had not spoken yet, instead studying Naruto with eyes that seemed to peer directly into his soul. Finally, he slid from his chair and approached with the aid of a gnarled walking stick. Interesting, you are, he said, his syntax strange to Naruto's ears despite the apparent translation. Familiar, yet unknown. A vergence in the Force, I sense around you. This is Master Yoda, Ahsoka explained quietly, the Grand Master of our order. Naruto bowed respectfully to the ancient being. It's an honor to meet you, Master Yoda. Yoda's ears twitched slightly as he circled Naruto, his gaze never leaving the young shinobi. From beyond our galaxy, Skywalker says you come. From beyond our universe, even. Believe this, do you? I do, Naruto confirmed. Everything here is unfamiliar. Your technology, your planets, even the stars themselves are different from my home. Yet speak our language, you do, Yoda observed. Actually, Obi-Wan interjected, according to Anakin. He speaks a language unknown to our translation protocols. It's only through the Force that communication is possible at all. This revelation surprised Naruto. He assumed the strange language was being translated somehow, but the idea that it was happening through this Force was unexpected. The Force connects all things, Yoda said, tapping his stick for emphasis. Even, it seems, across the boundaries of different realities. Master, Mace Windu said with careful neutrality, while the possibility of parallel dimensions has been theorized in obscure Jedi texts, we should consider more conventional explanations. Like what? Anakin asked, a hint of challenge in his voice. I witnessed his abilities firsthand, Master Windu. They defy conventional explanation, as did Knight Skywalker and Padawan Tano, Obi-Wan added. And the ship's recordings confirm their accounts. Windu's expression remained skeptical, but he didn't press the point. Instead, he addressed Naruto directly. These abilities you demonstrated, creating fire in vacuum, generating energy barriers, multiplying yourself, how do you explain them? Naruto considered how best to answer. In my world, we call it ninjutsu, techniques that use chakra to affect reality. Chakra is the combination of physical and spiritual energy within living beings. Much like the Force, Obi-Wan noted. Similar, yet different, Yoda countered. A structure to his energy, I sense. A framework that our understanding lacks. That's accurate, Naruto confirmed, impressed by the ancient master's perception. We use hand seals to mold chakra into specific forms for different techniques. The Rasengan, the spinning energy sphere I created, is actually an exception because it requires pure shape manipulation without seals. Quote, could you demonstrate? Obi-Wan asked, curiosity evident in his tone. Naruto looked to Yoda, seeking permission from the apparent leader. When the small master nodded, Naruto formed a basic hand seal. Transform. A puff of smoke enveloped him briefly before clearing to reveal an exact duplicate of Yoda standing in his place, complete with walking stick and wise expression. The real Yoda's eyes widened marginally, the first sign of genuine surprise he had shown. After holding the transformation for a few seconds, Naruto released it, returning to his natural form. That's one of the most basic techniques we learn. Useful for infiltration and deception. Most impressive, Obi-Wan said. I've seen Force illusions before, but nothing so complete or convincing. It's not an illusion, Naruto clarified. It's an actual physical transformation, though maintaining it requires constant chakra expenditure. This statement clearly surprised all three masters. Mace Windu leaned forward, his skepticism giving way to genuine interest. And the energy barrier you created to protect the Resolute. How does that function? Naruto created a small Rasengan in his palm, letting the masters observe its swirling patterns. This is pure chakra given rotational form. When expanded and flattened, it creates a barrier that can disperse incoming energy. The principles are similar to how I understand your ship's shields work, just more direct. Yoda approached the Rasengan, his three-fingered hand hovering near but not touching its surface. Balanced, it is. Both aspects of the Force. I sense within, light and dark, yet corrupted by neither. The observation seemed significant to the other Jedi, though Naruto didn't fully understand why. Before he could ask, Yoda dismissed the topic with a wave of his hand. Many questions, we have. Many answers, we seek. But rest, our visitor needs. Time to understand this situation, we all require. I agree, Obi-Wan said. We should arrange suitable accommodations within the temple while we investigate this matter further. Mace Windu nodded slowly. I'll inform the Chancellor of the situation, in general terms only. The appearance of an interdimensional visitor with unprecedented abilities could cause significant political complications if word spreads. Political complications are the least of my concerns, Anakin said. If Naruto hadn't intervened, the Resolute would have been destroyed with all hands. Whatever brought him here, I'm grateful for it. Yoda's ears twitched in Waden. Naruto was beginning to recognize his amusement. Always quick to judgment, you are, Skywalker. But correct in this instance, perhaps you may be. He turned to Naruto. Stay with us at the temple, will you? Much to learn from each other. We have. I'd be honored, Naruto replied. And grateful. I don't exactly have anywhere else to go at the moment. Then settled, it is. Yoda tapped his stick decisively. Show our guest to appropriate quarters, Padawan Tano will. Tomorrow. More questions, more answers. Ahsoka bowed to the masters. Yes, Master Yoda. As they left the council chamber, Naruto felt a peculiar sense of déjà vu. The formal structure of the Jedi Order reminded him somewhat of the hierarchical shinobi system, with its ranks and chains of command. Different terminology, similar essence. So, Ahsoka said as they walked through the temple corridors, what do you think of the council? They're intense, Naruto admitted. Especially Master Yoda. It's like he could see right through me. Ahsoka smiled. That's because he probably could. Master Yoda is the wisest and most powerful Jedi alive. Some say he can see shatterpoints in the Force, crucial moments where reality could branch in different directions. Quote, sounds a bit like the Sharingan from my world, Naruto mused, thinking of Sasuke and Kakashi. Though less about predicting the future and more about seeing through deception. They continued through the temple, Ahsoka pointing out various features as they walked. Despite the late hour, many Jedi were still active, some meditating in gardens, others practicing lightsaber forms in training rooms visible through transparent walls. The younglings' quarters are in the southeast tower, Ahsoka explained, with the Padawan dormitories nearby. Knights and D-Masters have their own apartments throughout the temple. You'll be staying in the visitors' wing, usually reserved for diplomats or Force sensitives being evaluated for potential training. Are there many of those? Naruto asked. Potential Jedi, I mean. Ahsoka's expression sobered. Not as many as there once were. Traditionally, Force-sensitive children are identified in infancy and brought to the temple for training. But with the war, she trailed off. Resources are directed elsewhere. Naruto finished for her, understanding all too well how conflict reshapes priorities. They arrived at a simple but comfortable apartment. The main room featured a seating area, a small kitchenette, and a work desk. A separate doorway led to what Naruto assumed was a bedroom and refresher. It's not fancy, Ahsoka said. But it should have everything you need. The food synthesizer can produce most standard cuisine, though I can't promise it'll have anything from your world. Naruto approached the device she indicated, examining its unfamiliar controls. As long as it can make something resembling ramen, I'll manage. Ahsoka smiled at this. I'll show you how to use it. And there's a COM terminal by the door if you need assistance. It's coded to connect directly to temple security. As she demonstrated the various amenities, Naruto found himself appreciating Ahsoka's straightforward manner. Despite the extraordinary circumstances, she treated him with neither suspicion nor excessive deference, just practical courtesy and hints of genuine friendliness. Thank you, he said when she finished her explanation. For everything. Pulling me back into the ship, showing me around, explaining things. I'd be completely lost without your help. You saved our lives, Ahsoka replied simply. It's the least I could do. A comfortable silence fell between them, neither quite ready to end their interaction despite the late hour. What happens now? Naruto asked finally. Ahsoka considered the question. The council will investigate, trying to determine how you arrived here and whether it's possible to send you back. They'll probably want to learn more about your abilities too, the way you use the Force, Chakra. Whatever we call it, it's unlike anything in our records. And the war, will I be expected to participate? The question clearly caught Ahsoka off guard. That's complicated. The Jedi don't conscript allies into Republic service. But if the Separatists learn of your abilities, they might target you regardless. Naruto nodded, understanding the implicit warning. Where I'm from, remaining neutral during conflict rarely works out well for anyone. No, Ahsoka agreed quietly. It rarely does. Another silence, this one heavier with unspoken concerns. I should let you rest, Ahsoka said finally. Master Yoda will likely want to begin early tomorrow. Right, Naruto agreed, though neither moved immediately. Naruto, Ahsoka said after a moment, her tone more personal than professional for the first time. What you did out there, protecting our ship, risking your life for people you'd never met. Thank you. Whatever brought you here, I'm glad it did. The simple sincerity of her statement touched something in Naruto. Me too, he replied, surprised to find he meant it despite the circumstances. With a final smile and slight bow, Ahsoka departed, leaving Naruto alone in the unfamiliar quarters. He moved to the window, gazing out at the endless city stretching to every horizon, its billions of lights twinkling against the night sky. What do you think, Kurama? He asked quietly. Is this where we're meant to be? The fox's voice rumbled in his mind. I don't believe in destiny, Kit. But I do believe in purpose. And something about this place resonates with powers older than even I can remember. Naruto nodded, watching as a distant ship ascended into the atmosphere, its lights merging with the stars above. Then I guess we'd better figure out what that purpose is. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, Echoes of Ancient Power. Dawn broke over Coruscant in gradual layers of amber and gold, the first rays of sunlight Kashyyyk hung on the uppermost spires of the Jedi Temple. Within his temporary quarters, Naruto had been awake for hours. Sleep had proven elusive in this strange new world, his mind too active processing everything he'd experienced since arriving. He sat cross-legged on the floor, attempting to gather natural energy in this unfamiliar environment. The process felt simultaneously easier and more challenging than in his own world. The energy itself seemed almost eager to answer his call, flowing readily into his system, but controlling it required intense concentration. It felt like trying to direct a waterfall with his bare hands rather than the steady stream he was accustomed to. This place is saturated with energy unlike anything in our world, Kurama observed within their shared mindscape. It's less structured, more wild. I've noticed, Naruto replied, opening his eyes as golden-orange pigmentation formed around them. It's like the whole planet is alive with chakra, but nobody's molding it properly. The fox's tail swished thoughtfully. Not chakra as we understand it. This force seems more primordial, closer to natural energy than the combined physical and spiritual energy we use. A soft chime interrupted their conversation, announcing a visitor at the door. Naruto released his sage mode and stood, smoothing his orange and black jacket. The door slid open at his approach, revealing not Ahsoka as he'd expected, but the Togruta Jedi Master he'd glimpsed briefly during the council meeting. Master, Naruto began, realizing he hadn't caught her name. Shaak, she supplied, her voice melodious and precisely measured. Unlike Ahsoka's more angular white facial markings, Shaak's featured rounded patterns that emphasized her serene expression. Quote, I hope I'm not disturbing your meditation. Not at all, Naruto replied, stepping aside to invite her in. I was just trying to get a feel for the natural energy here. Shaak entered with fluid grace, her long Jedi robes flowing around her tall frame. Naruto noticed immediately how different her presence felt compared to the other Jedi he'd met. Where Anakin burned like a turbulent star and Ahsoka shimmered with youthful vibrancy. Shaak's energy signature reminded him of still water, calm, deep, and reflective. Natural energy, she inquired, settling on one of the room's cushioned chairs. You speak of the living force. Perhaps. Naruto sat across from her, considering how to explain. In my world, there are 3 types of energy I can access. First is my own chakra, the combinate ion of physical and spiritual energy within my body. Second is natural energy from the world around me, which I can gather and blend with my own chakra to enter sage mode. And third, he paused, you're how to explain Kurama without revealing too much too soon. There is something else within you, Shaak observed, her dark eyes reflecting curiosity rather than suspicion. A presence, distinct yet harmonized with your own. The perception startled Naruto. None of the other Jedi had commented on sensing Kurama directly. She's more perceptive than the others, Kurama noted with grudging respect. You're right, Naruto acknowledged after a moment. I carry another being within me, a partnership that grants me access to powers beyond my own. Rather than seeming alarmed, Shaak leaned forward with increased interest. A symbiotic relationship with another consciousness. Fascinating. This practice is unknown among the Jedi, though certain Force traditions among the Nightsisters of Dathomir speak of spiritual bonding. It's not common in my world either, Naruto admitted. I'm what's called a Jinchuriki, a human vessel for a tailed beast. My partner is Kurama, the 9-tailed fox. As if responding to his name, Kurama's chakra briefly flared within Naruto, visible to Shaak as a momentary flash of crimson energy around the young shinobi. Remarkable, she murmured, and this connection is voluntary. Mutual. Now it is, Naruto confirmed. It wasn't always that way, but we've come to an understanding over the years. We're stronger together than apart. Shaak studied him with an intensity that would have been uncomfortable if not for the genuine respect behind it. The Jedi Code cautions against such connections. We believe attachment leads to fear of loss, which can draw one toward the dark side. Yet I sense no darkness in your bond, despite its obvious power. The dark side, Naruto repeated. Ahsoka mentioned that yesterday. What exactly does that mean? Shaak rose gracefully, moving to the window overlooking the awakening cityscape. Morning light illuminated her crimson skin as she gathered her thoughts. The Force has two aspects, according to Jedi teaching, she explained. The light side flows from peace, harmony, and selflessness. The dark side emanates from passion, conflict, and desire for control. Jedi strive to remain in the light, resisting the temptations of anger, fear, and aggression that lead to darkness. Naruto frowned slightly. That sounds incomplete. In my experience, emotions like anger can be destructive, but they can also protect what's precious. During the war, I've seen the gentlest people become fierce when defending loved ones. An insightful observation, Shaak acknowledged, and one that has sparked much philosophical debate within the Order throughout our history. Some masters believe our current interpretation of the code has become rigid. And what do you believe? Naruto asked, sensing there was more to her statement. A subtle smile curved her lips. I believe the Force guided me to you this morning for a reason. The Council has assigned me to help you understand our universe while we investigate your arrival. I suggested beginning in the archives, where the wisdom of 1,000 generations of Jedi might offer insights into your situation. Naruto recognized the diplomatic evasion but didn't press. Instead, he stood, genuinely eager to learn more about this strange new world. Lead the way, Master Shaak. The Jedi archives exceeded anything Naruto could have imagined. 4 vast halls extended from a central rotunda, each lined with glowing blue shelves containing what Shaak explained were holocrons, crystalline devices storing accumulated knowledge. Bust statues of ancient Jedi masters watched over the space from tall pedestals, their stone eyes seeming to follow visitors as they moved through the hushed chambers. This is incredible, Naruto whispered, instinctively lowering his voice in the library-like atmosphere. How much knowledge is stored here? The main archive contains records spanning over 25,000 years, Shaak explained as they walked. Though many of the oldest records were damaged or lost during various conflicts throughout our history. Jedi of diverse species sat at research stations or browsed the stacks, while floating droid assistants retrieved materials from higher shelves. At the center of the rotunda, an imposing woman with severely pulled back hair surveyed the activity with a critical eye. Madame Jocasta knew, Shaak explained, following Naruto's gaze. Chief Librarian of the Jedi Archives. Her knowledge of our collections is unparalleled, though her interpretations sometimes reflect traditional viewpoints. They approached the librarian, who turned at their advance with a measuring gaze that reminded Naruto uncomfortably of his academy instructors. Master T, Jocasta greeted with a precise nod. This must be our interdimensional visitor. Word travels quickly, even in the archives. Naruto Uzumaki, he introduced himself with a respectful bow. It's an honor to visit your library. The formality seemed to please the librarian. At least he has manners, she remarked to Shaak. Unlike some Padawans who treat the archives as their personal playground. We seek information on interdimensional phenomena, Shaak explained smoothly. Particularly any references to visitors from beyond known space who demonstrated unusual Force abilities. Jocasta's expression shifted from polite interest to skepticism. Such accounts would be classified as legends at best, Master T. The archive deals primarily in verified historical records. Yet legends often contain kernels of truth. Shaak countered gently. Master Yoda himself suggested we explore all possibilities. The invocation of Yoda's authority had the desired effect. Jocasta's posture softened, slightly as she considered the request. The 4th hall contains our collection of ancient mystical texts. You might begin with the Keldroma epics. They speak of rifts in reality during the Old Republic era. I'll have a droid prepare the relevant materials. With a gesture toward a nearby assistant droid, Jocasta issued instructions before turning back to them. I must warn you that many of His texts are fragmentary or written in archaic languages. Translations may be imprecise. Thank you for your assistance, Shaak replied with genuine appreciation. As they moved toward the 4th hall, Naruto noticed several young Jedi, barely older than academy students in his estimation, watching him with undisguised curiosity. One particularly bold Nautolan child with large black eyes and tentacle-like head appendages approached cautiously. "Are you really from another dimension?" the youngling asked, wide-eyed wonder overcoming protocol. Before Naruto could answer, a human instructor hurried over. "Padawan Zat, forgive the interruption, Master T. Our class is studying diplomatic protocol, but curiosity appears to be winning over manners today." Naruto smiled, kneeling to meet the youngling at eye level. "It's okay. Yes, I come from a different world called the Elemental Nations. We have ninjas instead of Jedi." "What's a ninja?" asked another youngling who had crept closer. A small Togruta girl with orange skin several shades lighter than Ahsoka's. "Ninjas are warriors who use special techniques to protect their villages," Naruto explained, enjoying their fascination. "We can walk on water, breathe fire, and even create copies of ourselves. Show us," several younglings chorused, drawing a stern look from their instructor. Naruto glanced at Shaak, who nodded almost imperceptibly. "Just one quick demonstration," he agreed, forming his signature hand seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 5 perfect copies of Naruto appeared in a semicircle behind him, each giving a friendly wave to the astonished younglings. Gasps and exclamations of delight echoed through the previously quiet archive, drawing disapproving looks from several older Jedi researchers. "Are they solid?" the Nautolan boy asked, reaching out tentatively to touch the nearest clone. "Completely," the clone confirmed, high-fiving the youngling. "I can think, feel, and act independently, bu. Everything I learn goes back to the original Naruto when I disappear." "That's enough excitement for one day," the instructor intervened, though her own expression betrayed fascination. "We mustn't disturb the archives further. Come, younglings." As the children were herded away, Naruto dispelled his clones with a puff of smoke. "Sorry about that. Kids are the same everywhere, I guess. Your interaction with them was illuminating," Shaak observed as they continued walking. "Most visitors to the temple find younglings intimidating due to their force sensitivity." "Why would I be intimidated by children?" Naruto asked, genuinely puzzled. Shaak's expression warmed. "Precisely the reaction that speaks volumes about your character, Naruto Uzumaki." They reached a secluded ion of the 4th hall where the assistant droid had prepared several ancient-looking texts and holographic displays. Unlike the pristine organization of the main archive, these materials appeared weathered by time. Actual paper scrolls alongside damaged data crystals and fragmentary stone tablets. "These are among our oldest records," Shaak explained, activating a holographic display. Ancient symbols flickered into existence, slowly resolving into readable text as translation protocols engaged. Many predate the Republic itself. Naruto studied the floating symbols, surprised to find some vaguely familiar. "These markings, some look similar to ancient scripts from my world." "Interesting," Shaak murmured, adjusting the display to highlight specific sections. "This text describes an era before the formal founding of the Jedi Order, when Force sensitives were known by many names across the galaxy. Among them were the Dai Bendu monks, the followers of Palawa, and..." She paused, her finger hovering over a particular symbol. "The Sage Walkers." "Sage Walkers," Naruto repeated, the term resonating oddly within him. Shaak manipulated the controls, bringing forth additional records. According to these fragments, the Sage Walkers could channel the energy of stars through their bodies and commune with great spirits of nature. They were said to use hand positions to direct their powers. "Hand seals," Naruto breathed, leaning closer to examine the crude illustrations showing figures with hands formed in positions strikingly similar to the basic ninja hand signs. Before they could explore further, a pressure built suddenly behind Naruto's eyes, a sensation he recognized from his training with the toads on Mount Myoboku. The archive around him blurred and distorted as unexpected natural energy surged through his system. "Naruto." Shaak's voice seemed distant, concerned. The world dissolved into swirling patterns of light and shadow. Naruto found himself standing in a vast, misty plain beneath unfamiliar stars. Before him stood a figure that simultaneously reminded him of the Sage of Six Paths and yet was distinctly different, tall and commanding, wearing robes that seemed neither Jedi nor shinobi, with symbols etched into the fabric that glowed with inner light. The figure carried no visible weapons, but power radiated from them in waves that made the air itself vibrate. When they spoke, their voice resonated not through the air but directly within Naruto's mind. The cycle turns again. The air approaches. "Who are you?" Naruto asked, his own voice sounding strange in this dreamlike space. "I am the first, the sage of twin flames. Bearer of balance." The figure raised their hand, revealing a palm marked with a symbol combining elements of the Rinnegan's concentric circles with patterns Naruto had glimpsed in the Jedi archive. The breach between realms was not accident but necessity. Ancient enemies stir in both worlds, seeking dominance through division. Only one who walks between can restore what was sundered. "I don't understand," Naruto admitted, frustration edging his voice. "Why me? How do I get home?" The figure's features remained indistinct. Yet Naruto sensed something like compassion emanating from them. Home is not a place but a purpose. Your journey has only begun, heir of Uzumaki. Seek the temples of convergence. Learn what has been forgotten. Unite what has been divided. The vision began to fade, the sage's form dissolving into motes of light. "Wait," Naruto called. "How will I find these temples?" "They will call to you. As your power calls to them. Trust in the bonds you forge. The path illuminates for those who balance the twin flames." Reality reasserted itself with jarring suddenness. Naruto found himself kneeling on the archive floor, Shaak's steadying hand on his shoulder. Her expression reflected controlled concern rather than alarm. "You experienced a force vision," she stated rather than asked. Naruto nodded, his mind still processing the cryptic encounter. "I saw someone. They called themselves the First, and the Sage of Twin Flames. They said my coming here wasn't an accident." Shaak helped him to his feet, her touch lingering slightly longer than necessary. Force visions are rare, especially for those untrained in Jedi meditation techniques. That you experienced one so vividly suggests a powerful connection to events unfolding around us. They mentioned temples of convergence, and something about twin flames, Naruto continued, glancing back at the ancient texts. "Does that mean anything to you?" The Jedi Master's expression shifted subtly, a flicker of recognition quickly masked. "There are legends of ancient force nexus throughout the galaxy, places where the boundaries between different aspects of reality grow thin. Some early Jedi texts refer to these as convergence points." She turned to a particularly ancient scroll, carefully unrolling its fragile surface. "As for twin flames, this symbol appears in some of our oldest records." The scroll revealed a faded illustration of two curved blades, one light, one dark, intertwined to form a single balanced whole. Unlike the rigid separation of light and dark in modern Jedi teaching, this ancient symbol depicted them as complementary rather than opposed. For the schism that eventually led to the Sith Order, Shaak explained quietly. Some Force traditions taught that true mastery came from understanding both aspects of the Force in harmony. These teachings were largely abandoned as the Jedi Order formalized its doctrine around the light side exclusively. Because they feared the dark side would corrupt them? Naruto asked, recalling their earlier conversation. Yes, Shaak confirmed, and not without reason. History records many powerful Force users who began with noble intentions of studying both aspects, only to be consumed by the dark side's seductive power. Naruto studied the ancient symbol thoughtfully. In my world, we acknowledge that darkness exists within everyone. The strongest shinobi aren't those who never experience hatred or anger, but those who acknowledge these feelings without being controlled by them. A perspective that would generate considerable debate in the council chambers, Shaak noted with the barest hint of amusement. Yet one that resonates with certain, heterodox traditions within our own history. Before Naruto could respond, a subtle shift in the ambient energy drew his attention. Something had changed in the temple's atmosphere, a tension that hadn't been present moments before. Shaak sensed it too, her posture straightening as her hand moved instinctively toward her lightsaber. Something's wrong, Naruto said, extending his senses throughout the temple. There's an intent that doesn't belong here. No sooner had he spoken than an alarm began to sound, not the blar-ing emergency signal he might have expected, but a soft, pulsing tone that nonetheless conveyed urgency. Temple security alert, Shaak explained, already moving toward the archive exit. The outer perimeters may have been breached. They emerged into the main rotunda to find Jedi moving with purposeful calm toward assigned security positions. Madame Jocasta was directing her staff to secure particularly valuable holocrons while younglings were being gathered by their instructors. Master T. called a familiar voice. Ahsoka hurried toward them, her expression tense. Master Yoda requests your presence in the security center. We have confirmed infiltration in the lower maintenance levels. Who would dare attack the Jedi Temple directly? Shaak T questioned, though her tone suggested she already suspected the answer. Initial reports indicate separatist commando droids, Ahsoka replied grimly. Small units, moving with stealth protocols active. They've already disabled several security systems in the East Quadrant. Quote, their target? Shaak T asked, already moving toward the security center with Ahsoka and Naruto falling in beside her. Unknown, but they're following a path that could lead to either the communications center or. Ahsoka glanced significantly toward the archives behind them. Information, Naruto concluded. They're after specific data. Ahsoka nodded. That's Master Kenobi's assessment as well. He's coordinating our response. As they moved through the temple corridors, Naruto observed Jedi of all ranks taking defensive positions with practiced efficiency. Despite the clear threat, there was no panic, only focused determination that reminded him of Konoha's shinobi during crisis situations. I want to help, Naruto stated. My shadow clone could cover more ground than your security teams. Shaak T considered this briefly before nodding. Your abilities would indeed be valuable. Ahsoka, take Naruto to the East Quadrant security checkpoint. Coordinate with Knight Sakura on containment while I join Masters Yoda and Kenobi. Yes, Master, Ahsoka replied with a quick bow before turning to Naruto. This way, we'll take the service turbolift. It's faster. As Shaak T departed toward the security center, Ahsoka led Naruto through less traveled corridors of the temple. The comparative emptiness of these utility passageways contrasts sharply with the serene grandeur of the main halls. So this kind of thing happens often? Naruto asked as they jogged. An attack on the temple itself? Never, Ahsoka replied, her voice tight. This is unprecedented. The temple is one of the most secure locations on Coruscant. For the separatists to attempt this suggests either desperation or. She hesitated. Or they have inside information. Naruto finished her thought. Ahsoka's expression confirmed his suspicion, though she didn't verbalize agreement. Instead, she activated a wall panel, revealing a small turbolift different from the ornate ones Naruto had seen in the main temple. Maintenance access, she explained as they entered. It'll take us directly to the East Quadrant junction. The turbolift descended rapidly, giving Naruto a momentary floating sensation. As it slowed near their destination, Ahsoka drew both lightsabers but didn't activate them. Stay close, she instructed, her voice shifting to the commanding tone he'd first heard on the Resolute. Commando droids are different from the battle droids you encountered before, faster, smarter, and equipped with personal shields that can briefly deflect lightsaber strikes. Nothing a Rasengan can't handle, Naruto assured her with confidence that wasn't merely bravado. After facing Kagaya, battle droids of any variety seemed manageable. The turbolift D's opened to reveal a utilitarian corridor bathed in pulsing red emergency lighting. Distant sounds of combat echoed from adjoining hallways, the distinctive hum of lightsabers interspersed with the higher-pitched whine of blaster fire. Ahsoka led the way, her movements fluid and predatory as they approached a security checkpoint where a blue-skinned Twi'lek Jedi was coordinating the defense. Other Jedi and a squad of temple security forces had established a perimeter, facing outward toward multiple access corridors. Knight Sakura, Ahsoka greeted with respectful urgency. Master T sent us to assist. This is Naruto Uzumaki, the visitor from yesterday. The Twi'lek's penetrating gaze assessed Naruto briefly. Your assistance is welcome. We've contained most of the intruders. But a small group has penetrated deeper into the archives, secure storage levels. Master Sinube is pursuing, but at his age. I can help, Naruto interjected, already forming hand seals. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 20 shadow clones materialized throughout the checkpoint, startling the temple guards who raised their weapons instinctively before Sakura's raised hand halted them. Impressive, the Twi'lek Jedi acknowledged coolly. Can your duplicates operate independently? Completely, Naruto confirmed. They can cover all access points and report back anything they find. Then we shall make use of this advantage. Sakura decided. Padawan Tano, take our visitor and 5 of his duplicates to assist Master Tsunube. The rest will deploy with security teams to seal the remaining breach points. Naruto directed his clones with practiced efficiency, sending them off in groups with the temple guards. Ahsoka activated her lightsabers, the green and yellowish blades casting eerie shadows in the red-tinged corridor. Master Tsunube went that way, she indicated, already moving. We need to hurry. They raced through maintenance corridors that gradually transitioned to more finish-ed spaces, clearly the lower levels of the archives, storage facilities. Shelves of physical books and scrolls lined these halls, along with sealed containers bearing warning labels in languages Naruto couldn't read. The first sign of combat appeared at an intersection, scorch marks on walls indicating blaster fire, and the distinctive melted slices left by lightsaber strikes. 2 temple guards lay wounded but alive, being tended by a medical droid. Commando droids, 1 guard reported through pained breaths. 6 units, moving toward the holocron vault. Master Tsunube engaged them, but they separated and flanked him. Which way? Ahsoka demanded. The guard pointed down the left corridor. The vault access is through the restoration laboratory. Naruto extended his senses, searching for unfamiliar energy signatures. Unlike living beings, the droids registered as voids in his perception, absences rather than presences. I sense them, he informed Ahsoka. And something else, an organic life form moving with them. They're not alone. Ahsoka's expression hardened. A living commander. That explains how they breached our security. They moved more cautiously now, Ahsoka taking point with Naruto and his remaining clones close behind. As they approached the restoration laboratory, the sounds of combat intensified, a lightsaber's distinctive hum punctuated by the sharp report of blaster fire. The laboratory door had been forced open, its security systems disabled. Inside, an elderly Jedi Master with a cane-like lightsaber was defending himself against 3 commando droids while simultaneously protecting a wounded Jedi archivist. Despite his apparent age, the old master moved with surprising grace, his single blade intercepting blaster bolts with precision. Master Tsunube, Ahsoka called, leaping into the fray with both lightsabers whirling. The distraction proved momentary but sufficient. 1 commando droid adjusted its targeting, allowing Master Tsunube's blade to penetrate its chassis. As it collapsed, Ahsoka engaged the remaining 2, her dual blade style creating a defensive pattern that forced them to retreat. The others proceeded to the vault, Tsunube informed them. His voice calm despite the situation. Their organic companion used Republic security codes to bypass the locks. I'll handle these 2, Ahsoka assured him, deflecting a concentrated barrage of blaster fire. Naruto, stop them from reaching the holocrons. Naruto nodded, racing past the ongoing skirmish toward the vault access with his shadow clones flanking him. The corridor beyond narrowed, leading to a massive circular door reminiscent of the entrance to Konoha's Forbidden Scroll repository. 3 commando droids were positioned defensively around the entrance while a hooded figure worked at the security panel. As Naruto and his clones appeared, the droids immediately opened fire, their precision targeting instantly eliminating 2 shadow clones. Wind release. Gale palm. Naruto shouted, clapping his hands together to generate a concentrated burst of wind chakra that deflected the incoming blaster bolts. His remaining clones charged, engaging the droids in close combat. Unlike the more rudimentary battle droids he'd encountered on the Resolute, these commando units displayed advanced combat programming, dodging, rolling, and employing melee weapons with near-organic fluidity. The hooded figure at the vault door turned, revealing a pale humanoid face with distinctive red markings and cold, calculating eyes. Kill the intruder, she commanded the droids in an accented voice. I require only moments more to access the vault. Not gonna happen, Naruto countered, forming a Rasengan in his palm. Whatever you're after stays here. The woman's lips curved in a predatory smile. A new pet of the Jedi. How interesting. From beneath her cloak, she withdrew a cylindrical object similar to a lightsaber but curved. When activated, it emitted a blade of crimson energy. Your masters haven't told you what they really protect in this vault, have they? Without waiting for a response, she lunged with surprising speed, her red blade slicing through one of Naruto's remaining clones. The attack would have continued through to Naruto himself had he not substituted with another clone at the last instant, a basic kawarimi technique that seemed to momentarily confuse his attacker. Impressive reflexes, she acknowledged, adjusting her stance. But ultimately futile. The commando droids had engaged Naruto's other clones, their superior combat program, proving challenging even for his shadow clone tactics. Each clone destruction provided Naruto with valuable combat data, however, allowing him to assess their capabilities. "You talk too much," Naruto observed, creating another shadow clone beside him. Together, they began forming a wind release, Rasengan, the screeching sound of wind chakra filling the corridor. The woman's eyes widened slightly at the technique. Curious. That energy signature is not Jedi methodology. Before their exchange could continue, a new presence announced itself. A group of younglings, no more than 10 years old, appeared at the far end of the corridor. They had clearly been evacuated from elsewhere in the temple but had somehow become separated from their guardians. "Younglings," came Ahsoka's alarmed voice as she appeared behind them. "Having dispatched the droids in the laboratory, get back." The momentary distraction proved costly. One of the commando droids broke away from fighting Naruto's clones and fired toward the children. Ahsoka lunged to deflect the shots, but the angle was wrong. She wouldn't reach them in time. Naruto reacted instinctively. Abandoning his half-formed Rasengan, he bestituted directly into the blaster bolt's path, his back to the incoming fire as he shielded the younglings with his body. The impacts were searing agony, 3 direct hits to his upper back and shoulder. Unlike the kunai and shuriken he'd experienced in combat before, these energy weapons burned through flesh and muscle with cauterizing heat. He staggered but remained standing, forming hand seals despite the pain. Earth-style mud wall. A barrier of solid earth erupted from the temple floor, cutting the corridor in half and providing temporary protection for the younglings. Behind him, he heard Ahsoka shepherding the children away from danger. "Naruto," she called, concern evident in her voice. "Your injuries." "I'm fine," he grunted, feeling Kurama's chakra already beginning to heal the wounds. "Protect the kids." On the other side of his earthen barrier, he sensed the mysterious woman resuming her work on the vault door. Whatever she sought was valuable enough to risk a dire court assault on the Jedi Temple. It couldn't fall into enemy hands. Gathering his remaining strength, Naruto formed a familiar cross-seal, multi-shadow clone jutsu. 50 clones materialized throughout the corridor and adjacent rooms, surrounding the intruders from all sides. The commando droids shifted to defensive positions, but their programming hadn't anticipated this level of numerical disadvantage. "Interesting trick," the woman observed, her hands still working on the vault's security system. "But mere numbers won't save you." "Maybe not," Naruto acknowledged, blood seeping through his jacket from the blaster wounds. "But this might." Each clone simultaneously began forming a basic Rasengan. The combined effect of 50 swirling chakra spheres illuminated the corridor with brilliant blue light, drowning out even the crimson glow of the woman's lightsaber. Her expression shifted from confidence to calculation. "Asajj Ventress does not retreat easily," she stated, seemingly referring to herself in the third person. "But neither does she fight battles she cannot win." With a gesture to the remaining droids, she abandoned the vault door. "Another time, perhaps." "Not likely," Naruto countered, his clones closing in. Ventress' response was unexpected. She raised her free hand toward the ceiling and made a grasping motion. The temple's stone structure groaned ominously before massive blocks tore free, crashing down to block the corridor between them. Naruto dispelled most of his clones to avoid unnecessary casualties, maintaining only those on the same side of the collapse as Ventress and her droids. Through the settling dust, he glimpsed her retreating form, lightsaber still ignited as she cut a path toward what appeared to be a maintenance shaft. "She's escaping through the ventilation system," Naruto called out, hoping Ahsoka could hear through the debris. His remaining clones pursued, but the woman moved with preternatural speed, deflecting attacks and eliminating clones with fluid precision. The commando droids provided covering fire, their strategic positioning making pursuit increasingly difficult. Naruto himself struggled to follow the blast, wounds hindering his movement despite Kurama's accelerated healing. By the time he reached the maintenance shaft, Ventress and her remaining droids had disappeared into the labyrinthine system. She used techniques similar to the Jedi. Kurama observed within their shared mindscape. But her energy signature was corrupted somehow. The dark side, I'm guessing, Naruto replied mentally, leaning against the wall as his wounds continued closing. She called herself Ventress, a name to remember, ***, the fox advised. She recognized your chakra as something unfamiliar to this world. That makes you a person of interest to her masters. The sound of moving debris announced Ahsoka's arrival as she cut through the collapsed stonework with her lightsabers. Temple security forces followed, along with Master Sinube and, to Naruto's surprise, Shaak. The younglings, Naruto asked immediately. Safe, Ahsoka assured him, deactivating her weapons as she approached. Thanks to you. Her eyes widened as she noticed the blood staining his jacket. You're injured. It's healing already, Naruto explained, straightening despite the lingering pain. The intruder, she called herself Ventress, escaped through the ventilation system. Asajj Ventress, Shaak confirmed grimly. Count Dooku's assassin. This confirms our suspicion of separatist involvement. Master Sinube approached, his elderly features set in thoughtful lines. The question remains, what were they seeking in the holocron vault? Most of its contents would be useless without force sensitivity to access them. Unless they have force users working with them, Ahsoka suggested, helping Naruto to a seated position despite his assurances of recovery. Or unless they sought specific information contained within particular holocrons. Shaak added, her gaze thoughtful. Information that might be extracted through alternative means. Temple security teams had begun sealing the breached areas and establishing containment around the damaged vault door. Medical droids attended to injured guards while Jedi Masters conducted thorough sweeps for any remaining intruders. We should get you to the healing halls, Ahsoka told Naruto. Her concern evident as she examined his injuries. Blaster wounds aren't like conventional injuries, they cause internal damage that isn't always immediately apparent. Really, I'm fine, Naruto insisted, though he appreciated her concern. My body heals differently than most people's. To demonstrate, he removed his jacket, revealing that the angry red blaster wounds had already closed, forming fresh pink scar tissue. Ahsoka's eyes widened. That's remarkable. Even with force healing techniques, wounds like these would take days to close. A benefit of my unique constitution, Naruto explained vaguely, not yet ready to elaborate on Kurama's role in his healing. Shaak observed the exchange with quiet interest before addressing the security team. Establish a full perimeter. I want every access point to the ventilation system sealed and monitored. Master Sinube, please oversee a complete inventory of the holocron vault once security is restored. Of course, Master T. The elderly Jedi agreed, leaning slightly on his cane lightsaber. Though I suspect our visitor prevented any actual theft through his timely intervention. Naruto stood carefully, testing his recovering body. The wounds still ached, but the worst of the damage had been repaired. I'm just glad the younglings weren't hurt. Speaking of which, how did they end up here? I thought evacuation protocols would have taken them to secure areas. A valid question, Shaak acknowledged, turning to Ahsoka. Padawan Tano, please investigate this breach of protocol. He younglings should never have been in this section during an alert. Yes, Master, Ahsoka replied with a formal bow, though her eyes lingered on Naruto with unresolved concern. As security operations continued around them, Shaak drew Naruto slightly aside. Your actions today were both brave and effective. The Council will be impressed by your willingness to protect our younglings at personal risk. Anyone would have done the same, Naruto demurred. Those kids reminded me of the academy students back home. Perhaps, Shaak allowed with a subtle smile. But few would have the capability to create dozens of solid duplicates or manifest walls from solid stone. Your abilities continue to intrigue. Before Naruto could respond, a temple guard approached, bowing respectfully to Shaak. Master, we've completed the initial security sweep. No further intruders detected, but we found this near the vault entrance. He held out a small data crystal. It appears to be a separatist decryption device. But it's been modified with technology we don't recognize. Shaak accepted the device, examining it carefully. Have the technical division analyze this immediately. It may reveal what specific information Ventress was targeting. As the guard departed, Shaak's expression grew contemplative. This incident is troubling on multiple levels. The timing, so soon after your arrival, suggests more than coincidence. Quote, "You think they came because of me?" Naruto asked, surprised. "Not necessarily because of you," she clarified. "But perhaps for information related to what we were researching. Ancient Force traditions that might explain your abilities and arrival." The implication settled uncomfortably. Whatever had brought Naruto to this dimension, others were now rested in the same phenomenon, others with apparently malicious intent. "Master T," called a voice from the vault entrance. A Jedi archivist emerged, his expression grave. "We've completed a preliminary assessment. While the primary vault remains secure, the attackers accessed the antechamber containing the navigation archive." "The star maps?" Shaak questioned, her calm exterior showing the first cracks of genuine concern. "Yes, Master. Specifically, the section containing records of unexplored regions and theoretical hyperlane routes to the unknown regions." Shaak and Ahsoka exchanged significant looks that Naruto couldn't fully interpret, but the tension between them was palpable. "What's in these unknown regions?" Naruto asked, sensing the information's importance. "Largely uncharted space beyond the galaxy's outer boundaries," Ahsoka explained. "Dangerous to navigate and largely unexplored due to gravitational anomalies and unstable hyperlanes. And home to rumors of ancient power and forgotten civilizations," Shaak added quietly. "Including some that may relate to what you described from your vision, the temples of convergence." The implications weren't lost on Naruto. So Ventress might be looking for these temples too. Why? What would the Separatists want with ancient Force locations? "That," Shaak replied gravely, "is precisely what concerns me. The dark side of the Force often seeks artifacts and locations of power to corrupt and exploit. If Count Dooku has taken interest in these ancient sites..." She didn't finish the thought, but she didn't need to. Whatever had brought Naruto to this dimension was evidently significant enough for both sides of this galactic conflict to take notice. "We should report this to the Council immediately," Ahsoka suggested. "Master Yoda especially will want to know about the connection to Naruto's vision." Shaak nodded agreement. "Yes, though we must proceed carefully. Not all Council members share Master Yoda's open-mindedness regarding ancient Force traditions that challenge orthodox teaching." As they prepared to depart the damaged archive section, Naruto noticed something odd about the rubble where Ventress had collapsed the ceiling. Embedded in one stone fragment was a small, crystalline object that emitted a faint glow visible only because of the surrounding dust. "Wait," he said, kneeling to examine it. The object seemed to respond to his proximity, its glow intensifying slightly. With careful fingers, he extracted it from the stone, a crystal shard no larger than his thumbnail. Clear like glass but with an internal structure that seemed to shift as he turned it. "What is that?" Ahsoka asked, leaning closer. "I'm not sure," Naruto admitted. "But it feels familiar somehow." The crystal resonated subtly with his chakra, creating a harmonic vibration he could feel rather than hear. Shaak's expression shifted to one of profound interest as she observed the crystal. "May I?" she asked, extending her hand. Naruto placed the fragment in her palm. Immediately, her eyes widened slightly. "Remarkable. This appears to be a fragment of a kyber crystal, the type Jedi use in their lightsabers. But its resonance pattern is unlike any I've encountered." "It was responding to Naruto's energy," Ahsoka noted. "I could see it glowing brighter when he held it." Shaak returned the crystal to Naruto, watching intently as the glow intensified once more in his possession. Kyber crystals are semi-sentient Force-attuned crystals that bond with their users. They typica call to the Jedi they're meant to serve. This one seems quite decisive in its preference. "So it's choosing me?" Naruto asked, the concept simultaneously strange and somehow fitting. "So it would seem," Shaak confirmed. "Though why a kyber crystal would be present in temple stonework raises questions of its own. The temple was built upon an ancient Force nexus, but embedded crystals are not among its documented features." Quote, Naruto closed his fist gently around the crystal, feeling its resonance harmonize with his chakra flow. "Another mystery to add to the growing list." "Indeed," Shaak agreed. "And one we should explore further." after we've addressed the more immediate concerns raised by today's attack. As they left the damaged archive section, Naruto sensed he was accumulating more questions than answers in this strange new world. The vision, the attack, the mysterious crystal, all pointed toward connections he didn't yet understand but clearly centered around his unexpected arrival. The plot thickens, Kit, Kurama observed dryly within their shared mindscape. I'm beginning to think this force has plans for us that extend beyond a simple dimensional accident. When has anything in my life ever been a simple accident? Naruto replied mentally, the crystal warm and somehow comforting in his palm as they headed toward the Jedi Council chambers. The council chamber's panoramic windows revealed Coruscant's afternoon skyscape, endless lines of air speeders flowing between towering structures beneath a sky painted in deepening gold and amber. Unlike the morning meeting with only 3 masters present, this emergency session had drawn a fuller attendance, with several members participating via holographic projection from distant battlefronts across the galaxy. Naruto stood at the chamber's center beside Ahsoka and Shaak, acutely aware of the scrutiny from the assembled Jedi Masters. He recognized Yoda, Windu, and Kenobi from their previous meeting. But the others were new, a diverse gathering of species and personalities united by their obvious power and authority. Troubling, this attack is, Yoda stated after hearing their report. Unprecedented. Such boldness from the separatists. Their target appears to have been navigational data to the unknown regions, Shaak explained. Specifically, sectors that align with ancient references to Force nexus points. Quote, and you believe this connects to the vision experienced by our visitor? Asked a holographic Jedi with an elongated head and gentle eyes. Yes, Master Kun, Shaak confirmed. The timing is too significant to dismiss as coincidence. Mace Windu's expression remained skeptical. While I don't discount the connection, we must consider that the separatists may have targeted this information for strategic military reasons. The unknown regions could provide bases beyond Republic detection. That doesn't explain Ventress' personal involvement, Obi-Wan countered thoughtfully. Dooku doesn't deploy his apprentice for routine intelligence gathering. Nor does it explain why they breached the holocron vault's outer chamber rather than the strategic planning section. Added a female Jedi Master with dark tattoos across her face. The archives contain far more valuable military intelligence elsewhere. There's something else, Naruto interjected, drawing all eyes to him. He opened his palm, revealing the crystal fragment. I found this embedded in the rubble. Master T identified it as a kyber crystal, but it seems different somehow. Yoda's ears perked forward with evident interest. Approach, young one. Examine this crystal, I would. Naruto stepped forward, placing the crystal in Yoda's small 3-fingered hand. The ancient master closed his eyes, seemingly communing with the fragment. After a moment, his eyes reopened, wider than before. Most unusual, this is, he declared. A kyber crystal, yes, but ancient beyond reckoning. From the earliest days of the temple, perhaps even before. Is that significant? Naruto asked. Kyber crystals grow stronger with age, explained the tattooed female master. Ancient crystals often develop unique properties and resonances. But why would it be embedded in temple stonework? Ahsoka questioned. And why reveal itself now? Questions upon questions, Yoda mused, returning the crystal to Naruto. Yet answers, I sense, are connected to our visitor's arrival. Naruto felt the crystal warm against his palm once more. In my vision, the figure mentioned, temples of convergence, and something about twin flames. Master T found references to similar concepts in ancient archive records. The temples of convergence are considered mythological, Windu stated dismissively. Legends from before the Republic era. With respect, Master Windu, Shaak countered gently, many legends contain historical truths obscured by time. The archives hold fragmentary references to sites where the Force manifests with unusual properties that align with abilities our visitor has demonstrated. Such as standing unprotected in space, Obi-Wan asked with raised eyebrows. Or creating solid duplicates of himself. Precisely, Shaak confirmed. The earliest records describe Force users capable of manipulating physical matter and energy in ways modern Jedi consider impossible. A thoughtful silence fell across the council chamber. Even the skeptical masters seemed to be reconsidering their positions in light of this information. If these temples exist, Obi-Wan ventured finally, and if they're connected to Naruto's arrival and abilities, we must assume Dooku seeks them for purposes that align with separatist goals. Or Sith goals, corrected Windu darkly. Which may be entirely different. Yoda tapped his Geimer stick gently on the floor, drawing attention. Meditate on these revelations, we must. But action, also required is. He turned to Naruto. Your vision, guidance it offered. Follow this guidance, we should. You mean find these temples before the separatists do? Naruto asked. Yes, Yoda confirmed. Though careful, we must be. Ancient power. Dangerous it can be, even to those with good intentions. I volunteer to lead this investigation, Shaak stated, surprising several council members. My studies of ancient foe, RCE traditions may prove valuable in understanding what we find. Your presence on Kamino is required, Master T, Windu reminded her. The clone production facilities cannot remain unguarded. With respect, Master Windu. Shaak replied with subtle firmness. I believe this matter may prove more crucial to the war effort than my supervisory role on Kamino. Master Kohler could temporarily assume those responsibilities. Before Windu could object further, Yoda intervened. Agree with Master T, I do. Her knowledge of ancient texts, valuable it will be. Approve this mission, I do. Windu's expression suggested continued reservations, but he offered no further objection. Very well. But this operation must remain classified at the highest level. The Senate is not to be informed until we determine exactly what we're dealing with. And who should accompany them? Obi-Wan asked practically. We can't spare many Jedi from the war effort. I'll go. Ahsoka volunteered immediately, stepping forward. I've already worked with Naruto and understand his abilities better than most. Your master may have objections to this assignment, Padawan Tano, Windu noted. With respect, Master Windu. Ahsoka countered with carefully measured confidence. Skyguy, Master Skywalker is currently leading the campaign in the Outer Rim. This mission requires someone familiar with both Naruto's capabilities and Republic protocols. I fit those requirements. Naruto admired Ahsoka's diplomatic yet determined approach. She clearly wanted to participate in this mission, though he wasn't certain. If her motivation stemmed from curiosity about his abilities, desire for adventure, or genuine belief in the mission's importance. A valid point, Padawan Tano makes, Yoda acknowledged. Approve her participation, I do. Provided inform Master Skywalker, we do. The discussion continued, addressing practical matters of transportation, resources, and communication protocols. Eventually, a consensus emerged. Shaak would lead a small team including Ahsoka and Naruto to investigate the possible locations of these ancient temples, beginning with the coordinates Ventress had attempted to access. As the meeting concluded, Naruto found himself standing on one of the temple's meditation balconies, watching the sunset paint Coruscant's endless cityscape in hues of fiery orange and deep purple. The events of the day swirled in his mind. The vision, the attack, the crystal that somehow recognized him, and now this mission into unknown territory. Troubled thoughts, I sense in you, came Yoda's voice as the ancient master hobbled onto the balcony, his Geimer stick tapping softly against the stone floor. Just trying to make sense of everything, Naruto admitted. Yesterday I was fighting to save my world. Today I'm preparing to search for ancient temples in a galaxy I barely understand. Yoda settled beside him, his small form somehow commanding despite his size. Disorienting, sudden change is. Yet adapt quickly. You do. The mark of a resilient spirit, that is. I've had practice adapting to unexpected situations, Naruto replied with a small smile, thinking of his tumult. UOU's life journey from ostracized orphan to respected hero. Yes, Yoda agreed, his large eyes studying Naruto with penetrating insight. Many challenges, you have faced. Carried burdens, you have, that others could not bear. The observation struck uncomfortably close to Naruto's status as a Jinchuriki, something he hadn't yet disclosed to the Jedi. You can sense that. Sense many things, I do, Yoda replied enigmatically. A unique destiny, yours is. Intertwined with our galaxy's fate, it has become. Naruto turned the Kyber crystal fragment in his fingers, watching how it caught the fading sunlight. This mission, Do you really believe these temples could help me find a way home? Home, Yoda repeated thoughtfully. Always in motion, the future is. But connections between worlds, rare they are not. Pathways exist for those who know where to look. The vision mentioned ancient enemies in both worlds, Naruto recalled. As if whatever brought me here wasn't just about me, but about some larger conflict. The dark side, growing it has been. A shadow over all, it casts. Yoda's ears drooped slightly. Perhaps need you, we do, as much as need us, you do. The saint, Atemant resonated with Naruto's own suspicions. His arrival felt too purposeful, too connected to larger events to be mere accident. The crystal, Yoda continued, nodding toward the fragment in Naruto's hand. Calling to you, it is. Listen to it, you should. How do I listen to a crystal? Naruto asked, genuinely curious. Yoda's expression softened. The force flows through all things. Through you, through me, through that crystal. Quiet your mind. Feel its song. Naruto closed his eyes, cradling the crystal in his palm. Drawing on his sage training, he extended his senses beyond the physical. Seeking the subtle energy patterns within the crystalline structure. At first, nothing happened. Then, gradually, he became aware of a faint resonance, not sound exactly, but a vibration that seemed to harmonize with his own chakra flow. As he focused on this connection, images flickered through his mind. A temple built into a mountainside, its entrance marked with symbols combining elements of both Jedi and shinobi traditions. A chamber deep within where light and shadow danced in perfect balance, figures in ancient robes performing hand movements that resembled both Jedi force techniques and shinobi hand seals. The vision ended as gently as it had begun, leaving Naruto with a sense of direction rather than specific coordinates, a feeling that he would recognize the temple when he encountered it. I saw something, he told Yoda, opening his eyes. A temple, built into a mountain, with markings that seemed familiar yet different. Yoda nodded, unsurprised. Guiding you, the crystal is. Your path, illuminating. But why me? Naruto asked, voicing the question that had troubled him since arriving. I'm not a Jedi. I don't even understand the Force. Understand rain, does the seed? Yoda countered with gentle wisdom. Yet grow, it does, when water falls. He tapped his stick thoughtfully. Not accident, your coming was. Purpose in all things, there is. Before Naruto could respond, Ahsoka appeared at the balcony entrance. Master Yoda. Naruto, Master T has completed the preliminary mission preparations. We've been assigned a ship and support resources. Good news, this is, Yoda acknowledged. Rising slowly to his feet. Rest, you should all get. Tomorrow, your journey begins. As Yoda hobbled away, Ahsoka approached Naruto at the balcony's edge. That crystal's really something, she observed, nodding toward the fragment still in his hand. Kyber crystals don't usually glow like that unless they're in a lightsaber. It showed me something, Naruto told her, describing the brief vision. Almost like it knows where we need to go. The Force works in mysterious ways, Ahsoka replied, though her tone suggested this particular mystery exceeded even Jedi expectations. Master T is analyzing the navigational data we recovered. She thinks she can identify several possible locations for these temples based on ancient star charts. Naruto pocketed the crystal, turning to face Ahsoka directly. Are you sure you want to come on this mission? It sounds like you're pretty important to the war effort. Ahsoka's expression revealed a complex mix of emotions, determination foremost among them. The war has consumed the Jedi Order for years now. Sometimes I think we've lost sight of what we're supposed to be, peacekeepers and scholars, not generals. She glanced toward the distant horizon. This mission feels like something a Jedi should be doing, seeking knowledge, understanding the Force, helping someone find their way home. The sincerity, why in her voice touched something in Naruto. Thank you. Having friends makes being stranded in another dimension a lot less terrifying. Friends, Ahsoka repeated with a small smile. I like that. The Jedi Code discourages attachments. But friendship is something I think even Master Yoda would approve of. As twilight deepened into true night, the first stars appeared above Coruscant's light-polluted sky. Somewhere among those distant points of light lay answers to the questions that had brought Naruto to this galaxy, and perhaps a way home. Master T wants us to meet in the hangar at dawn, Ahsoka informed him. Turning toward the door, you should get some rest. You too, Naruto replied. Something tells me this mission won't be as straightforward as anyone's hoping. Ahsoka's smile turned wry. They never are. After she departed, Naruto remained on the balcony a while longer, the kyber crystal a warm presence in his pocket. Above, the stars of an unfamiliar galaxy twinkled with ancient light. While below, the endless city pulsed with the energy of trillions of lives. Strange as this world was, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was exactly where he needed to be. Whether that was comforting or concerning remained to be seen. The temple hangar bustled with pre-dawn activity when Naruto arrived the following morning. Various spacecraft occupied landing pads throughout the vast space, sleek starfighters alongside larger transport vessels and diplomatic shuttles. Maintenance droids scurried between ships while Jedi pilots and clone troopers prepared for morning departures. Shaak stood beside a vessel unlike the military cruisers Naruto had seen previously. This ship was smaller, more elegant, with sweeping lines that suggested speed and stealth rather than combat power. Its silver-gray hull bore minimal Republic markings, giving it a discreet appearance compared to the more official-looking vessels nearby. The Horizon Seeker, Shaak explained as Naruto approached. A Jedi diplomatic vessel modified for extended exploration missions. Small enough to navigate difficult terrain, large enough to provide comfortable accommodations for extended journeys. It's beautiful, Naruto observed, admiring the ship's graceful design. And practical, added Ahsoka, emerging from the vessel's boarding ramp. Reinforced shields, upgraded sensors, and enough supplies to keep us operational for months if necessary. Hopefully our journey won't require quite so long, Shaak noted with subtle humor. The Council has approved a 3-week exploratory mission, with extensions possible depending on our findings. Naruto shouldered his pack containing the few possessions he'd accumulated since arriving, mainly spare clothing prov. IDED by the Temple Quartermaster and a datapad Ahsoka had programmed with basic information about the galaxy. So where exactly are we headed? Our primary destination is the Silix system in the Outer Rim, Shaak explained, producing a small holographic projector that displayed a star map. It's located near the border of known space, with several uncharted regions beyond. Ancient texts reference a nexus of power in that sector. And the navigational data Ventress targeted included specific coordinates within the system. Master T also identified 2 secondary locations with similar references, Ahsoka added. We'll investigate those if Silix proves unsuccessful. As they discussed the mission parameters, a small group approached from the hangar entrance, Obi-Wan Kenobi accompanied by Master Yoda and, surprisingly, the chief librarian Jocasta knew. Master Kenobi, Master Yoda, Shaak greeted them with a respectful bow. We weren't expecting an official send-off. Not merely a send-off, this is, Yoda replied. Information to share, Madame Nu has. The elderly librarian stepped forward, carrying an ornate wooden box inlaid with symbols similar to those Naruto had seen in the ancient texts. After yesterday's incident, I conducted a more thorough search of our restricted archives, she explained. This holocron was hidden within a sealed vault section dating back nearly 4,000 years. She opened the box, revealing a pyramid-shaped device that glowed with soft blue light. Unlike the technological appearance of most devices Naruto had seen, this object made to blend crystalline structures with metallic components in a way that suggested both advanced technology and artistic craftsmanship. A holocron from the time of Bastilla Shan, Obi-Wan observed with evident surprise. That's well before the Rusan Reformation. Indeed, Jocasta confirmed, and it contains information specifically referencing travelers between realms and the temples of convergence. I believe it may prove valuable to your mission. Shaak accepted the holocron with reverent care. Thank you, Madame Nu. This is an unexpected treasure. Unexpected, yes, the librarian agreed. Yet perhaps precisely what was needed. The Force works in mysterious ways. How do we access the information? Naruto asked, studying the peculiar device. Holocrons respond to Force interaction, Ahsoka explained. Different types require different approaches. Jedi holocrons typically open to those aligned with the light side who demonstrate proper respect and intent. This particular holocron appears unusually complex. Jocasta added. My brief examination suggests it may require a specific resonance frequency to fully activate, one I suspect may align with your unique energy signature, young man. Naruto blinked in surprise. Mine. But I'm not even from this galaxy. Which may precisely be why, Obi-Wan suggested thoughtfully. If it contains information about interdimensional travelers, perhaps it was designed to respond to energies not typically found in our universe. A theory worth testing during your journey, Yoda concluded. But time, passing it is. Depart, you should, before more attention your mission draws. The implicit concern was clear. The sooner they left, the less chance of separatist spies noting their departure and mission composition. After final farewells and additional guidance from Yoda regarding communications protocols, the three boarded the Horizon Seeker. The ship's interior surprised Naruto with its elegant functionality. Unlike the utilitarian military vessels he'd seen previously, the Seeker balanced aesthetic considerations with practical design. The central area served as both meeting space and command center, with holog Rafik displays and comfortable seating arranged to facilitate both research and navigation. Corridors branched to private quarters, a small medical bay, and what Ahsoka described as a meditation chamber. All prepare for departure, Shaak announced, moving toward the cockpit. Ahsoka, perhaps you could familiarize Naruto with the ship's systems. Of course, Master, Ahsoka replied, gesturing for Naruto to follow her. Let's start with the practical stuff. Emergency protocols, communication systems, and life support controls. As they moved through the vessel, Ahsoka efficiently explained various features with the confidence of someone thoroughly familiar with spacecraft operations. Naruto absorbed as much as possible, though many concepts remained alien to him despite his best efforts. Don't worry if it seems overwhelming, Ahsoka assured him, noting his expression as she demonstrated the environmental controls. Most systems are automated, and I've been flying ships since I was 14. 14, Naruto repeated, impressed despite himself. We don't have anything like this technology in my world. The most advanced transportation we have is trains, and those are pretty new. Really? Ahsoka seemed genuinely surprised. But your combat abilities are so advanced. The shadow clones, energy manipulation, those nature transformations. Different kinds of technology, I guess, Naruto reflected. We developed chakra-based techniques instead of machines. Though some places, like the Land of Snow, were starting to combine chakra with technology before I left. Their conversation paused as they felt the subtle vibration of the ship's engines activating. Through the viewport, the hangar began to recede as the Seeker lifted gracefully from its berth. I'd want to strap in for the first jump to hyperspace, Ahsoka suggested, leading Naruto back to the central area where acceleration couches had automatically adjusted to secure position. It can be disorienting the first time. They settled into the couches as Shaak's voice came over the internal communication system. We've received clearance from Coruscant traffic control. Preparing for atmospheric exit and hyperspace jump to our first waypoint. The ship climbed rapidly through Coruscant's multiple layers of air traffic, accelerating as it reached the upper atmosphere. Naruto watched through the viewports as the planet's endless cityscape diminished below them, gradually resolving into the distinctive spherical shape of a world seen from space. It's still hard to believe that entire planet is one city, he remarked as Coruscant receded behind them. 1 trillion inhabitants across 5,000 levels in some areas, Ahsoka confirmed. I grew up in the temple, so I never experienced the deeper levels personally. But they say the lowest levels haven't seen natural sunlight in thousands of years. The concept boggled Naruto's mind, a civilization so vast and ancient that it had completely transformed its planetary home over millennia. Even the great hidden villages of his world seemed tiny and transient by comparison. Preparing for hyperspace jump, came Shaak's calm voice. Coordinates locked for the Kashyyyk system. Kashyyyk, Naruto questioned, looking to Ahsoka. I thought we were heading to the Silix system. We are, she confirmed. But hyperspace travel for longer journeys typically uses multiple jumps along established routes. It's safer and helps avoid tracking. Kashyyyk is a Wookiee world along our path. We'll make a brief stop there to refuel and adjust our course. Before Naruto could ask what a Wookiee might be, stars outside the viewport elongated into streaks of light. A moment later, the vessel entered hyperspace proper, a swirling tunnel of blue-white energy that surrounded them completely. The transition produced a momentary sensation of pressure and disorientation that reminded Naruto uncomfortably of his dimensional displacement. He gripped the couch armrests tightly, focusing on his breathing until the feeling passed. "You okay?" Ahsoka asked, noticing his tension. "Yeah," Naruto assured her, gradually relaxing. "Just reminded me of how I arrived here." Quote. Ahsoka's expression shifted to one of thoughtful curiosity. "What was it like? Traveling between dimensions, I mean." Naruto considered how to describe the experience. "Imagine being everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Like your body was stretched across infinite space while also compressed to a single point." He shook his head. "It wasn't pleasant. I can imagine," Ahsoka replied sympathetically. "Though actually, I can't imagine at all. There's nothing in Jedi teaching about interdimensional travel, at least nothing concrete. Which makes our mission all the more significant," Shaak added, joining them from the cockpit now that the ship was safely in hyperspace. "If the temples of convergence truly exist and contain knowledge of pathways between realms, they represent a profound expansion of our understanding of the Force." She placed the ancient holocron on the central table, where it pulsed with subtle blue light. "Madame Nu was correct. This device appears to respond to your presence, Naruto. Its energy signature strengthened when you boarded the ship." Naruto leaned closer to the pyramidal object, studying its intricate patterns. "How do we open it?" "Typically, Jedi holocrons require force interaction with specific intent," Shaak explained. "One must project both mental focus and force energy in the correct resonance pattern. Like this," Ahsoka demonstrated, extending her hand toward the holocron and closing her eyes in concentration. The device brightened slightly but remained sealed. "I suspect this particular holocron may require a different approach," Shaak observed. "Perhaps something combining Jedi technique with your chakra methods, Naruto." Naruto considered this, remembering how the Kyber crystal had responded to his energy. "Maybe I could try channeling chakra through it. Similar to how we activate certain scrolls in my world." "Worth attempting," Shaak agreed, gesturing for him to proceed. Naruto focused, gathering chakra to his fingertips before gently touching the holocron's surface. The effect was immediate and unexpected. The device rose from the table, hovering at eye level as its blue glow intensified. The pyramid's apex separated, corners folding outward like a blossoming flower to reveal a complex internal mechanism surrounding a central crystal core. A holograph. IC image formed above the opened holocron, a robed figure whose features were obscured by a hood, but whose stance and proportions suggested a human or near-human female. "Greetings, traveler between realms." The figure spoke in a language that seemed to bypass normal translation, resonating directly with understanding rather than sound. "If you have activated this recording, the cycle has begun anew." The three observers exchanged significant glances as the message continued. "I am Celestina Craven, Keeper of Ways, last guardian of the Convergence Order. What you seek exists in places where realities intersect. The temples of convergence, built by those who understood that the Force extends beyond any single universe." The holographic figure gestured, and a star map appeared beside her, highlighting three distinct locations. The primary nexus lies where twin suns cast triple shadows upon the sacred mountain. The second nexus rests beneath eternal ice where crystals sing to those with ears to hear. The third nexus floats among clouds that never touch the ground, accessible only to those who understand that gravity is merely a suggestion. "Poetic but not exactly precise coordinates," Ahsoka murmured. The hologram continued, unaffected by the commentary. "Beware, traveler. The knowledge contained within these temples was sealed for cause. Ancient powers sought to exploit the pathways between realms, to conquer not merely one universe but many. What was sundered by necessity." The figure's tone grew more urgent. "If the seals have weakened enough for transit between realms, then the abyssal ones may also sense the opportunity. They who feed on the energy of collapsing realities, they who were banished beyond the veil of stars." "Abyssal ones," Naruto repeated, the term sending an uncomfortable chill down his spine. "To reach the primary nexus, you must carry the key of resonance, a crystal attuned to both realms. Without it, the Lo will remain sealed to your perception. As if responding to these words, the kyber crystal fragment in Naruto's pocket grew warm. He withdrew it, finding it glowing with increased intensity. He journey requires one who walks in light, one who understands shadow, and one who bridges worlds. Together, you may succeed where the divided must fail. The holographic figure began to fade. Why the force of all realities guide your path, traveler. The fate of many worlds rests upon your success. With these final words, the holocron's glow dimmed and its petals closed, returning to its dormant pyramidal form. The three stood in silence for several moments, processing the implications of the message. Well, Ahsoka said finally, that was both helpful and completely terrifying. Indeed, Shaak agreed. Her normally composed features showing rare concern. This suggests our mission has far greater significance than even Master Yoda anticipated. Naruto stared at the crystal fragment in his palm. Its glow now subsided to a gentle pulse that matched his heartbeat. The key of resonance. I think that's what this is. Or part of it, at least. The descriptions of the temple locations, Shaak noted. Moving to the ship's navigational system. Twin suns casting triple shadows, that could refer to a binary star system with specific planetary alignment. The Silix system has binary stars. Ahsoka confirmed, accessing the star charts. And the third planet has a significant mountain range on its northern continent. Then our initial destination appears even more promising, Shaak concluded. Though the warning about these abyssal ones concerns me greatly. Every great adventure needs a properly menacing villain, Naruto observed with a hint of his characteristic optimism. Though inwardly he shared their concern. At least we know what we're looking for now. And that we were right about the three of us being meant to undertake this mission together, Ahsoka added. Glancing between Naruto and Shaak, one who walks in light, one who understands shadow, and one who bridges worlds. Seems pretty clear. The Force has indeed brought us together with purpose. Shaak acknowledged, though I suspect our roles may not be as straightforward as they appear. Naruto returned the crystal to his pocket, feeling its reassuring warmth against his skin. Nothing in my life ever is. Quote, as the Horizon Seeker continued its journey through hyperspace, the three settled into research and preparation, Shaak studying ancient texts relating to the Convergence Order. Ahsoka analyzing the star charts for potential temple locations, and Naruto practicing chakra control techniques adapted for this galaxy's unique energy patterns. The Kyber cries. Tall fragment remained a constant presence in Naruto's awareness, its resonance growing stronger as they traveled further from the core worlds. Whatever connection existed between his arrival and these ancient temples, the crystal seemed to be both guide and key, a tangible link between his world and this one. Hours later, as artificial night fell within the ship's cycle, Naruto stood alone in the observation lounge. Watching the hypnotic swirl of hyperspace energies outside the viewport, the familiar weight of responsibility settled on his shoulders, not just finding his way home, but potential. Protecting multiple realities from some ancient threat. Typical, ***, Kurama commented dryly within their shared mindscape. We defeat a goddess in our world only to face abyssal ones in another. Your luck remains consistent, Kit. At least I'm not facing it alone this time, Naruto replied mentally. The fox's tail swished thoughtfully. These Jedi females are formidable in their own right. The younger one reminds me of you, stubborn, passionate despite her training. The older one, she has depths she keeps carefully contained. Both could be valuable allies. Are friends, Naruto corrected gently. Friends, then, Kurama conceded with what passed for affection in his gruff manner. You've always had a talent for turning powerful beings into allies. Perhaps that's your true Kekkei Genkai. Naruto smiled at the observation, turning the crystal between his fingers as hyperspace light played across its facets. Whatever challenges awaited at their destination, he would face them as he always had, with determination, adaptability, and faith in the bonds formed along the way. The stars streaked past, carrying them toward ancient mysteries and, perhaps, the pathway home. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Shadows of Duality. The Kashyyyk system materialized around them as the Horizon Seeker reverted from hyperspace, the swirling blue tunnel collapsing into pinpoints of starlight. A verdant green world dominated the viewport, Kashyyyk, homeworld of the Wookiees and their kilometers-high Roshar trees. The dense forest canopy created an undulating emerald surface visible even from orbit. "We'll make a brief stop for supplies and to recalibrate our nav computer," Shaak explained, guiding the ship toward a designated approach vector. "The Wookiees are staunch Republic allies, and their chief Tarful has graciously offered assistance." Naruto watched with fascination as they descended through wispy cloud layers toward a massive structure integrated into the forest canopy. Unlike the artificial precision of Coruscant's architecture, this spaceport seemed to grow from the trees themselves, wooden platforms and walkways extending between trunks wider than Konoha's entire Hokage Tower. "The Wookiees build their cities in the upper canopy," Ahsoka explained, noting his interest. "The forest floor is too dangerous, full of predators that would make even experienced Jedi think twice." "Dangerous forests, huh?" Naruto grinned. "Sounds like the forest of death back home. We used it for Chunin exams, survival training for ninja looking to advance in rank. You sent children into a place called the Forest of Death?" Ahsoka asked, eyebrows raised. "I was 12 my first time through," Naruto confirmed with a casual shrug. "Lost some blood, fought some giant snakes. Nearly died a couple times. Standard promotion stuff." Ahsoka's expression suggested this was far from standard by her standards, but further conversation halted as Shaak guided their vessel to a gentle landing on a circular wooden platform. The boarding ramp lowered with a soft hydraulic hiss, admitting warm, humid air rich with unfamiliar botanical scents. "Wow," Naruto breathed as he stepped outside, taking in the vista of interlocking platforms suspended among trees so massive they defied comprehension. Bridges of woven fiber and wood connected various levels, while flying creatures soared between distant platforms. His amazement doubled when he caught sight of the platform's welcoming committee, 3 towering, fur-covered beings standing easily 2.5 meters tall. Their powerful builds and sharp-toothed snarls might have seemed threatening if not for the gentle intelligence in their eyes and the ceremonial garb they wore. "Chief Tarful," Shaak greeted the central figure with a respectful bow. "Thank you for accommodating our unscheduled arrival." The Wookiee chieftain responded with a series of growls, barks, and rumbling sounds. Unintelligible to Naruto but apparently meaningful to the Jedi. "Yes, our mission is of some urgency," Shaak confirmed. "We appreciate your discretion." More growls followed as Tarful gestured toward Naruto with evident curiosity. "This is Naruto Uzumaki, a visitor from beyond the Outer Rim," Shaak explained diplomatically. "He possesses unique abilities that may help us understand certain ancient Force traditions." Naruto bowed respectfully, unsure of proper Wookiee etiquette. "It's an honor to meet you, Chief Tarful." The Wookiee studied him with intelligent eyes before responding with what sounded like a question. "He asks if you are a Jedi," Ahsoka translated. "Wookiees have great respect for the Order." "No, I'm a shinobi, a ninja from the Hidden Leaf Village," Naruto replied. Seeing the Wookiee's confusion, he added, "I'm a warrior who uses Chakra, energy similar to your Force, to protect my home." Tarful considered this before barking something that made Ahsoka smile. "He says any friend of the Jedi is welcome on Kashyyyk, especially one who fights to protect his people." She paused as the Wookiee continued. "He's also offering to show us something he thinks might interest us while supplies are loaded. Apparently, there's an ancient stone monument in the sacred grove that bears symbols similar to those we described in our transmission." Shaak tis Norma. LLY composed features registered surprise. "We made no mention of specific symbols in our communication." Tarful growled a lengthy explanation, gesturing toward the deeper forest. "He says Wookiee lore speaks of travelers between stars who visited Kashyyyk thousands of years ago," Ahsoka translated. "They left markings on sacred stones that have been protected by Wookiee tradition ever since. When he heard we sought ancient Force sites, he thought the connection might be significant." Naruto and Shaak exchanged meaningful glances. This unexpected development aligned too perfectly with their mission to be coincidence. "We would be honored to see these stones," Shaak replied with a deeper bow than before. Tarful barked orders to his companions, who departed toward the landed hip while he beckoned for the 3 visitors to follow. Their path led across swaying bridges that connected massive tree platforms, offering dizzying glimpses of the distant forest floor hundreds of meters below. The Wookiees never developed repulsor lifts or turbolifts, Ahsoka explained as they walked. They believe in maintaining physical connection with their forest. Every bridge and pathway is constructed by hand according to ancient traditions. Naruto nodded appreciatively, instantly comfortable with the height thanks to years of tree running in Konoha. I like it. Reminds me of home. Actually, though our trees weren't quite this impressive. Their journey continued downward through successively older levels of the Wookiee city, the architecture growing more primal and organic as they descended. Eventually, they reached a platform different from the others, a perfect circle of polished wood inlaid with spiral patterns radiating from the center. The space felt ceremonial, with hanging lanterns and carved totems positioned at cardinal points. Tarful approached the center of the platform and pressed his hand against a particular spiral pattern. The wood responded to his touch, sections sliding apart to reveal a hidden passage descending into the trunk itself. The Heart Grove, Ahsoka whispered reverently. Few outsiders have ever been permitted to enter. A spiral street, staircase of living wood led downward into soft green illumination. As they descended, Naruto sensed a dramatic shift in the ambient energy. Something about this place amplified natural chakra in a way reminiscent of Mount Myoboku. Though with distinctive variations he couldn't quite identify. The force is unusually strong here, Shaak observed quietly. Like a natural vergence point. Tarful led them ever deeper until the staircase opened into a cavernous chamber inside the massive tree trunk. Bioluminescent fungi provided gentle illumination, revealing walls lined with intricate carvings depicting Wookiee history. At the chamber's center stood a circle of 7 stone monoliths, each 3 meters tall and covered in symbols worn by time but still distinctly visible. These stones predate Wookiee civilization. Shaak breathed, approaching the nearest monolith. The craftsmanship suggests technology beyond even current Republic capabilities. Naruto circled the stones, something about their arrangement triggering a sense of déjà vu. When he reached the northern position, his breath caught in his throat. There, unmistakable despite millennia of weathering, was a spiral path. Identical to the seal on his stomach, the 8 trigrams seal that contained Kurama. That's, he began, his voice failing. Impossible, ***, Kurama finished within their shared mindscape, the F. Ox's usual gruff tone replaced by genuine astonishment. That's the exact configuration the Sage of 6 Paths used in his most powerful sealing techniques. Tarful growled a question, sensing their surprise. Yes, Shaak confirmed, her own attention fixed on the same symbol. This is exactly what we're seeking. Chief Tarful, what do your legends say about these stones? The Wookiee Kai, rumbled a lengthy explanation that Ahsoka translated in sections. The oldest stories speak of Skywalkers, who came when Kashyyyk had 7 moons instead of 3. They possessed powers to move between stars without ships, to heal with a touch, and to speak with the souls of trees. They taught the ancient Wookiees to respect the balance between upper canopy and roots deep below. They warned of shadow eaters, who would one day return from beyond the veil, seeking to devour the light of all worlds. The abyssal ones, Shaak murmured. The same warning from the holocron. Naruto approached the monolith bearing the spiral seal, his hand drawn to its surface almost involuntarily. The stone felt warm beneath his touch, somehow alive despite its mineral nature. Without conscious intent, chakra flowed from his fingers into the ancient surface. The response was immediate and dramatic. The spiral symbol illuminated with golden light that spread to connecting lines previously invisible, revealing a complex network of seals and formulas spanning all 7 monoliths. The entire chamber hummed with awakened energy. Tarful stepped back, barking in alarm as the stone circle began to glow. It's okay, Naruto assured him, though he was equally surprised. I'm not doing anything, it's responding on its own. The illuminated pattern stabilized, creating a glowing diagram reminiscent of a star map. But unlike any celestial arrangement in known space, at the center, where lines from all 7 monoliths converged, a 3-dimensional projection formed, a planet orbiting binary stars, with a distinctive mountain range highlighted on its northern continent. The Silix system, Ahsoka identified immediately. Just as we suspected. But the projection continued evolving, zooming toward the mountain range to reveal a structure built into its highest peak. a temple whose architecture blended elements that Naruto recognized from both shinobi and Jedi traditions. The Intran CE bore the same spiral seal prominently above massive doors. The primary nexus, Shaak breathed. The first temple of convergence. The projection shifted again, displaying a sequence of symbols that resembled a combination of ancient Jedi script and chakra formulas. Naruto couldn't read the language, but somehow understood its meaning, directions, warnings, and activation sequences for the temple's entrance. I can read this, he said, surprised. Not the actual writing, but the meaning is clear somehow. The Force provides understanding where conventional translation fails, Shaak explained. These instructions confirm we need the key of resonance to access the temple's interior. Tarful watched the projection with evident awe, growling a question that needed no translation. What did this mean? It means Kashyyyk holds more secrets than even the Wookiees realized, Shaak answered respectfully. These stones form a guidance system, activated only by energy resonant with their creators. The Wookiee chief considered this before gesturing to the glowing monoliths and barking a decisive statement. He says Wookiee tradition has protected these stones for countless generations without knowing their purpose, Ahsoka translated. Now that purpose has revealed itself, he considers it fulfillment of ancient prophecy. Naruto stepped back from the monolith, allowing the projection to fade gradually. Will you tell the Republic about this place? Tarful's response was immediate and emphatically negative. He says these stones are Wookiee heritage, not Republic assets, Ahsoka explained. They will remain protected by tribal guardians as they have for millennia. He asks only that we respect their sacred nature and share what we learn when our journey is complete. A wise and generous position. Shaak acknowledged with deep respect. We accept these terms with gratitude, Chief Tarful. As the projection faded completely, the ambient energy in the chamber settled back to its previous state, powerful but dormant. Tarful led them back toward the spiral staircase, but not before placing a massive, furry hand on Naruto's shoulder and growling something directly to him. He says you carry the mark of the Skywalkers within you, Ahsoka translated, her expression curious. He can sense it in your spirit. The mark of the Skywalkers. Naruto repeated, unconsciously touching his stomach where the 8 trigram seal lay hidden beneath his clothes. Interesting choice of words, asterisk, Kurama noted. Skywalker, sage of 6 paths, the parallels grow more significant. Their return journey to the landing platform proceeded in contemplative silence, each processing the implications of their discovery. Upon arrival, they found the Horizon Seeker refueled and supplied, ready for departure. After formal farewells and expressions of gratitude to Chief Tarful, they boarded their vessel and prepared for the next leg of their journey. As the ship lifted from Kashyyyk's canopy, Naruto remained at the viewport, watching the magnificent forest world recede beneath them. You're quiet, Ahsoka observed, joining him. Just thinking about those symbols, Naruto replied. The spiral seal on that monolith is identical to one I carry. You carry. Ahsoka's curiosity was evident. Naruto hesitated briefly before deciding that trust must begin somewhere. He lifted his jacket and mesh undershirt, channeling a small amount of chakra to make the seal visible on his abdomen. This seal was placed on me when I was an infant. It contains, well, it's complicated. But it contains a powerful entity that I've formed a partnership with. Ahsoka's eyes widened as she studied the complex pattern. That's remarkable, and it's exactly like the symbol on the monolith. Exactly the same, Naruto confirmed, lowering his shirt. Which means either the Skywalkers visited my world at some point, or the connection between our universes is more fundamental than we realized, Shaak concluded, joining them from the cockpit. The hyperspace calculations for Silix are complete. We'll make the jump momentarily. Naruto nodded, his gaze returning to the stars visible through the viewport. How long until we reach the Silix system? Approximately 17 hours, Shaak replied. I suggest we use this time to prepare ourselves. The temples of convergence were clearly sealed for good reason. Whatever awaits us may require our full combined capabilities. Agreed, Ahsoka said. I think we should train together. Share techniques and approaches. If we're going to face these abyssal ones, or whatever else guards the temples, we'll need perfect coordination. A wise suggestion, Shaak approved. The ship's C Entral chamber can be reconfigured for training purposes. As the Horizon Seeker entered hyperspace once more, they gathered in the central chamber, where Ahsoka had already cleared furnishings to create an open space. Shaak initiated the proceedings by centering herself in a traditional Jedi meditation posture. Before physical training, we should align our energies, she suggested. Naruto, you mentioned a state called Sage Mode that allows you to gather natural energy. I'm curious how this compares to Jedi meditation techniques. Naruto nodded, settling cross-legged across from her. In my world, entering Sage Mode requires perfect stillness and concentration to gather natural energy and blend it with my own chakra. The balance has to be exact. Too much natural energy turns you to stone. Both Jedi raised their eyebrows at this. A rather permanent consequence for meditation gone awry, Shaak noted with mild understatement. That's why it usually takes years to master, Naruto explained. I had some shortcuts thanks to my shadow clones, but it's still challenging. Show us, Ahsoka requested, joining them in the meditation circle. Naruto closed his eyes, centering G himself before extending his awareness to the energy flowing around them. As in previous attempts since arriving in this galaxy, he found the Force responded differently than the natural energy of his world, more fluid, less structured. But somehow more eager to be shaped. He gathered it carefully, balancing it with his internal chakra. Orange pigmentation formed around his eyes as he achieved partial Sage Mode. Though not the complete state he'd mastered with the toads. Fascinating, Shaak murmured, her Jedi senses perceiving the transformation in his energy signature. Your presence in the Force expands exponentially. It's similar to how powerful Jedi connect to the living Force, yet distinctly different. I can sense everything within the ship, Naruto confirmed, eyes still closed. And beyond, the hyperspace corridor we're traveling through, the echoes of distant stars, it's more vivid than in my world. The Force binds all living things, Ahsoka explained. Jedi train to sense these connections. To feel disturbances and harmonies across great distances. Try something with me, Shaak suggested. Maintain your Sage Mode while I attempt to establish a Force meld. A technique that allows Jedi to share perceptions and coordinate actions. Naruto nodded agreement, maintaining his meditative state as Shaak extended her awareness toward him. The sensation was unlike anything he'd experienced, a gentle presence touching his consciousness, not invasive like Yamanaka clan techniques, but inviting and supportive. I can sense your energy, he told her. It's like still water reflecting starlight. Deep but clear. Shaak's lips curved in a subtle smile. An apt description. Your energy appears to me as a spiraling vortex, golden at its core but ringed with multiple colors, and within it. A second presence, ancient and powerful. She senses me, asterisk, Kurama noted, impressed despite himself. That's Kurama, Naruto confirmed. My partner. The entity you mentioned, Ahsoka recalled. Her own meditation deepening as she observed their exchange. Would you introduce us? The request surprised Naruto. Few people in his own world had ever asked to meet Kurama rather than simply fearing or seeking to exploit his power. After a moment's consultation with the fox, he nodded. He's willing. Give me your hands. The two Jedi each placed a hand in his. Naruto channeled a specific configuration of chakra, creating a temporary sensory link similar to what he'd used during the war to connect allied shinobi forces. Within their shared perception, a massive forest materialized, a simplified version of Naruto's mindscape. Towering before them stood Kurama in all his glory, nine tails swaying behind him as he regarded the Jedi visitors with ancient eyes. So these are the Force wielders, the fox rumbled, his voice resonating directly in their minds. Interesting. Your energy is similar to the Sage of Six Paths, yet different in fundamental ways. To their credit, neither Jedi displayed fear despite the fox's intimidating appearance. Shaak bowed respectfully, as one would to an equal. An honor to meet you, Kurama. I sense great wisdom in your presence. Flattery will get you nowhere, the fox replied, though his expression suggested otherwise. But perception might. You see clearly for one so young by my standards. And you're huge, Ahsoka blurted with characteristic directness. Are all beings from Naruto's world like you? Kurama's rumbling laugh shook the mindscape. I like this one, Kit. Reminds me of you. more courage than sense. To Ahsoka, he added, "No, little Jedi. I am one of 9-tailed beasts, beings of pure chakra created by the Sage of Six Paths centuries ago. Naruto is my Jinchuriki, my partner and vessel. Your chakra feels ancient," Shaak observed, "and contains both light and dark aspects in balance. All true power maintains balance, Kurama stated, fixing her with a penetrating gaze. Your Jedi fear the dark side because they don't understand its nature. Darkness isn't evil, it's simply the shadow cast by light. One cannot exist without the other. You sound like certain heterodox Jedi philosophers," Shaak noted with interest. There were masters in our ancient history who held similar views before the Order formalized its current doctrine. Further conversation was interrupted as the ship's proximity alarm sounded, breaking their meditative connection. The mindscape dissolved as all three opened their eyes, instantly alert. "We daren't be encountering anything in hyperspace," Ahsoka said, already moving toward the cockpit with Jedi swiftness. Naruto and Shaak followed close behind, arriving as Ahsoka activated the sensor display. The readout showed something impossible, another vessel pacing them through hyperspace, matching their vector precisely. "That's not possible," Shaak stated, though the evidence contradicted her words. Hyperspace interdiction technology exists, but tracking and matching a specific vessel's hyperspace trajectory is beyond any known capability. The ship's communication system activated without prompting. Projecting a holographic image above the console, a hooded figure Naruto recognized immediately from the temple attack. Ventress, Ahsoka identified, her hand moving instinctively toward her lightsaber. "Greetings, Jedi," the assassin purred, her accent distinctive even through the electronic transmission. "And companion, how fascinating to find you pursuing the same prize as my master. How are you tracking us through hyperspace?" Shaak demanded, her usual serenity hardened to Durasteel calm. "Ancient technology has many advantages over your Republic trinkets," Ventress replied with cold amusement. "The coordinates you seek were not the only valuable data I acquired from your precious archives." Naruto stepped forward, studying the holographic figure with tactical assessment. "What do you want, Ventress?" The assassin's pale eyes fixed on him with predatory interest. "Ah, the mysterious protector of younglings. My master is most curious about you, a Force user employing techniques unknown to either Jedi or Sith." Her head tilted slightly. "You're not trained in their traditions, are you? Your power flows differently." "Your point," Naruto countered, unwilling to provide information. "My point, boy, is that you're pursuing knowledge you don't understand, knowledge my master has studied for decades." Her expression shifted to something resembling sincerity. "The temples of convergence are not playthings for Jedi archaeologists. They contain power that could reshape reality itself. All the more reason to prevent that power from falling into separatist hands." Shaak replied evenly. Ventress laughed, the sound utterly devoid of humor. "You think this is about politics? About your petty Republic versus separatist conflict?" She leaned closer to the holographic pickup. "This is about something far older and more significant. The very fabric of reality hangs in the balance. The abyssal ones," Naruto stated, watching her reaction carefully. The minute widening of her eyes confirmed his suspicion. Ventress knew the term. "So, you've discovered that much at least. Then perhaps you understand the true stakes. My master seeks to prevent their return, not facilitate it." "Forgive us if we don't take the word of a Sith assassin," Ahsoka retorted. "Believe what you will, child," Ventress replied dismissively. "But know this, the Temple will not yield its secrets to the unworthy. Without the complete key of resonance, you face certain death." Her gaze shifted to Naruto. "You possess a fragment, yes. A shard that calls to your unusual energy." Naruto's hand moved unconsciously toward his pocket where the kyber crystal fragment rested. "As I thought," Ventress continued, satisfaction evident in her tone. "A fragment only. He complete key requires 3 shards, one attuned to the light, one to the dark, and one to the balance between. Without all 3, the temple's defenses will, well, let's just say the results would be most unpleasant." "And I suppose you have the remaining shards?" Shaak asked, her tone suggesting she already knew the answer. "My master possesses the shard of darkness," Ventress confirmed. "The third remains hidden, though we have promising leads. Her expression shifted to calculating assessment. I propose a temporary arrangement. Combined resources, shared access to the temple's outer chambers. After all, neither of us can proceed alone. The three exchanged glances, communicating silently through subtle expressions before Shaak responded. Your offer is noted, Asajj Ventress. We will consider it when we reach the Silex system. A diplomatic non-answer, Ventress observed with a cold smile. How very Jedi. Consider quickly, we arrive in 16 hours. With that, the transmission ended, leaving the cockpit in tense silence. Well, that complicates things, Naruto observed dryly. Indeed, Shaak agreed. Though perhaps not unexpectedly. If the temples truly contain the power described in the ancient texts, multiple factions would naturally seek to control them. Do you think she's telling the truth about the key requiring 3 shards? Ahsoka asked, turning to the sensor display to confirm they were still being tracked. Partially, at least, Shaak answered thoughtfully. The concept of triune keys appears in multiple ancient Force traditions. Balance achieved through the combination of opposing elements. The Kyber crystal does seem incomplete, Naruto added, removing the fragment from his pocket. Like it was broken from a larger whole. Shaak studied the navigation data with a contemplative expression. We should proceed with our original plan, but remain alert for Ventress' inevitable betrayal. If Count Dooku truly possesses a second shard of the key, we may indeed require temporary cooperation, distasteful as that may be. Cooperate with Ventress. Ahsoka's tone conveyed her distaste for the idea. She's tried to kill me and Master Skywalker multiple times. Quote, and she attacked the temple, Naruto added. Nearly injured younglings. Yet she now speaks of preventing the return of the Abyssal Ones, Shaak countered. Which suggests either elaborate deception or genuine concern about a greater threat. She turned from the viewport to face them directly. The ancient texts speak of these entities as dangers to all reality, threats that transcend political divisions or even the schism between Jedi and Sith. So we're supposed to trust her because we might face something worse? Ahsoka asked skeptically. Not trust, Shaak corrected. Utilize strategic cooperation while maintaining vigilance. Naruto considered this approach, recognizing its pragmatic wisdom despite his personal distaste. In my world, we sometimes allied with former enemies when facing extinction-level threats. It rarely ended in lasting friendship, but occasionally prevented disaster. Precisely, Shaak agreed. For now, let us continue our preparation. If Ventress spoke truly about the temple's defenses, we'll need every advantage regardless of whether we ultimately cooperate with her. They returned to the central chamber. But the focus shifted from meditative exploration to practical combat training. Ahsoka demonstrated lightsaber forms while Naruto shared basic taijutsu stances, each adapting their techniques to complement the other's style. Shaak, meanwhile, revealed sophisticated force applications that bordered on techniques forbidden by orthodox Jedi teaching. Force harmonization, she explained, demonstrating a technique that created resonant energy patterns between herself and inanimate objects. This ancient practice allows one to temporarily synchronize with the molecular structure of materials, useful for bypassing certain types of barriers or detecting hidden mechanisms. That's not standard Jedi training, Ahsoka observed with surprise. No, Shaak acknowledged. These techniques come from records predating the Ruusan Reformation, when the Order's approach to Force study was broader. She adjusted Ahsoka's hand position slightly. Many were classified as potentially dangerous and restricted to masters with special dispensation for historical research. Like you, Naruto noted. A subtle smile curved Shaak's lips. My interest in ancient Force traditions has occasionally raised eyebrows in the council. Master Yoda understands the value of preserving such knowledge, others prefer it remain sealed away. The training continued for hours, each sharing technique. While the ship hurtled through hyperspace toward their destination. As artificial night fell according to the vessel's cycle, they separated for rest periods, though all remained alert to their uninvited companion vessel tracking them through the impossible blue tunnel. Naruto found sleep elusive, his mind replaying the Wookiee chief's words about Skywalkers and the identical seal pattern found on the ancient monolith. Eventually, he gave up on rest and made his way to the ship's small observation lounge, where the swirling patterns of hyperspace created hypnotic displays through the reinforced viewport. "Can't sleep either," came Ahsoka's voice as she entered the lounge behind him. "Too much to process," Naruto admitted. "Every answer we find raises 3 new questions." Ahsoka settled beside him, her youthful features ghostly in the blue hyperspace illumination. "I know the feeling. 3 days ago I was just a Padawan worried about battlefield strategies and lightsaber forms. Now I'm chasing interdimensional temples and discussing philosophy with thousand-year-old fox spirits." Naruto chuckled at her summary. "When you put it that way, it does sound pretty bizarre." "In a good way," she clarified with a smile. "It feels important, like we're part of something bigger than the war, bigger than Jedi versus Sith." Her expression grew more serious. "Don't tell anyone, but sometimes I wonder if the Order has lost its way, becoming so focused on military objectives that we've forgotten our true purpose. Which is, understanding the Force, maintaining balance, helping people." She sighed softly. "Not commanding armies and debating military strategy in the Senate." Naruto understood her conflict all too well. Back home, shinobi were originally tools for warfare. Villages rented us out to the highest bidder for assassinations, espionage, combat. It took generations and multiple wars for that to start changing. And now, still changing, Naruto admitted. "But I believe we're moving toward a system where ninja use their powers to protect and connect people rather than dividing them. That's the kind of Hokage, village leader, I want to be someday." "That sounds like what Jedi were meant to be," Ahsoka observed thoughtfully. "Before the war changed everything." Their conversation paused as the lounge door opened again, admitting Shaak. The Jedi Master's serene presence filled the small space, though Naruto noted subtle signs of tension in her normally perfect composure. "Am I interrupting?" she asked. "Not at all," Ahsoka assured her. "We were just discussing how this mission feels different from our usual wartime activities." "Indeed," Shaak agreed, joining them at the viewport. "There is something clarifying about pursuing knowledge for its own sake. Rather than tactical advantage." She studied the hyperspace patterns thoughtfully. "Though in this case, the knowledge itself may prove the greatest tactical advantage of all. If we find it before Ventress and her master," Naruto added. "Or alongside them," Shaak corrected. "Which brings me to my purpose in seeking you both. I've been meditating on Ventress Opposal and the nature of the key of resonance." She produced a datapad displaying ancient texts and diagrams. These fragments from the archive describe the triune nature of certain Force artifacts. The symbolism consistently emphasizes balance through opposition, not elimination of darkness, but its integration into a greater whole. "That contradicts current Jedi teaching," Ahsoka noted with furrowed brow. "Yes," Shaak acknowledged. "The modern order teaches that the dark side is inherently corrupting, that any use of it taints the practitioner irreversibly." She hesitated, clearly weighing her next words carefully. "Yet the oldest texts suggest a more nuanced understanding. They describe darkness not as evil incarnate, but as necessary contrast that defines the light." "She speaks wisdom beyond her order's dogma," Kurama commented within Naruto's mind. "Reminds me of the sage's original teachings, before humans simplified them into good versus evil." "Kurama agrees with you," Naruto relayed. "He says it's similar to the original teachings of the Sage of Six Paths in our world, before they were oversimplified." Shaak's expression reflected genuine interest. Our Kurama possesses ancient wisdom indeed. The parallels between our world's spiritual traditions grow more compelling with each revelation." "So what does this mean practically?" Ahsoka asked, returning to the immediate concern. "Do we actually need Ventress and Dooku's Shard of Darkness to activate the temple?" "I believe we do," Shaak confirmed. "But that doesn't necessarily mean surrendering to their agenda. If the third shard truly represents balance, it may be the controlling element, the mediator between light and dark." "And you think I'm connected to this balanced shard?" Naruto asked, intuiting her direction. "Your energy signature contains elements that register as both light and dark in Force terms, yet remains uncorrupted by either extreme," Shaak explained. "It's a pattern I've never encountered in any Jedi or Sith, yet it resonates strongly with the ancient descriptions of the Convergence Order." "The Sage of Twin Flames," Naruto murmured, recalling the figure from his vision. "Precisely." Shaak's normally reserved demeanor showed rare animation. The ancient texts speak of those who could walk between polarities and channel dual aspects without division. I believe your chakra system, particularly with Kurama's influence, naturally achieves what the convergence order spent lifetimes mastering. So I'm automatically balanced because of how chakra works in my world. Naruto asked, trying to understand. Not automatically, Shaak corrected. Your journey to harmonize with Kurama rather than subjugate him represents a profound spiritual aiki. Vehement, one that parallels the highest attainments described in the convergence texts. She's right, Ahsoka added with sudden insight. When you showed us Kurama in your mindscape, I sensed no conflict. ICT between you, just distinct entities working in perfect coordination. That's nothing like the struggle Jedi are taught to expect when confronting darker energies. Naruto considered their observations thoughtfully. His relationship with Kurama had evolved dramatically over time, from antagonistic imprisonment to respectful partnership. That journey had required him to acknowledge and integrate darker aspects of himself while maintaining his core principles. If you're right, he said finally, then what does that mean for our approach to the temple? And to Ventress? It suggests, Shaak replied carefully, that traditional Jedi-Sith antagonism may actually prevent either side from accessing the temple's deepest secrets. Perhaps the Convergence Order intentionally designed their Sitiums to require cooperation between opposing Force traditions, forcing enemies to work together. Ahsoka realized. That's either brilliant or completely insane. Or both, Naruto added with a slight smile. We have something similar in Fuinjutsu, sealing techniques that require multiple opposing chakra signatures to unlock. They're used for artifacts too dangerous for any single village to control. Their discussion continued late into the ship's night cycle, exploring implications and planning approaches for their arrival at Silix. When they finally retired to their quarters, Naruto's mind still raced with possibilities. Though exhaustion eventually pulled him towards sleep. As consciousness faded, he found himself not in dreams but in the familiar space of his mindscape forest, where Kurama waited with unusual solemnity. Something is happening, Kid, the fox stated without preamble. I'm remembering things, knowledge buried so deeply even I couldn't access it until now. What kind of things? Naruto asked, instantly alert despite his physical body's slumber. The Sage of Six Paths didn't create the tailed beasts from nothing, Kurama explained, 9 tails swishing with agitation. The 10 tails, Kagaia's merged form, wasn't originally from our world at all. It came from somewhere else, somewhere beyond. This revelation stunned Naruto. You're saying Kagaya was an interdimensional traveler. Like me? Not exactly, Kurama clarified. More like an invader. One of these, abyssal ones, the holocron warned about. The sage didn't just defeat her. He implemented a multi-dimensional seal to prevent others of her kind from following. And that seal is breaking down, Naruto realized with growing alarm. That's why I was pulled here, Bako. Say the threat is becoming active again in both universes. It seems increasingly likely, the fox agreed grimly. The timing of your displacement, immediately after Kagaia's sealing, cannot be coincidence. Somehow, the echo of that event resonated across dimensions, activating ancient contingency measures. Like the Sage of Twin Flames sending me here. Or something working through the residual energy of the Sage of Six Paths, Kurama suggested. The sage was many things, but even he couldn't predict events thousands of years after his death with such precision. Conversation continued throughout Naruto's sleep cycle, the fox sharing fragments of emerging memories while Naruto connected them to recent discoveries. By the time the ship's systems initiated the artificial dawn sequence, a disturbing picture had emerged, one that placed their mission in an entirely new context. Naruto found Shaak already awake in the central chamber, deep in meditation. She opened her eyes as he entered, immediately sensing his troubled state. You've discovered something, she observed. Kurama remembers things, Naruto confirmed, settling across from her. About the origin of threats in my world, threats that sound exactly like these abyssal ones. He shared the fox's revelations as concisely as possible, watching understanding dawn in Shaak's expression. Ancient texts speak of a Great sundering. When the realms were separated for protection, she noted when he finished. If your world's sage implemented one half of that separation while the convergence order handled the other, then we're dealing with the same threat from two sides, Naruto concluded. And my arrival might be part of a failsafe mechanism designed to reunite the defensive effort. Their discussion paused as Ahsoka joined them, quickly catching up on Naruto's revelations. Together, they reviewed their approach plans as the ship's navigation system announced proximity to their destination. Preparing to exit hyperspace, Shaak announced, moving to the cockpit with practiced efficiency. The swirling blue tunnel collapsed around them, resolving into normal space as the Horizon Seeker reverted to real space at the outer edge of the Silix system. The binary stars burned in the distance, one golden yellow, the other smaller and reddish, casting distinct light patterns across the system's planets. Immediately evident on the sensor display was another vessel, a modified separatist shuttle with distinctive design elements that marked it as Count Dooku's personal transport. Punctual, if nothing else, Ahsoka remarked dryly. The communication system activated, projecting Ventress image once more. Right on schedule, Jedi. Have you considered my proposal? Shaak took the lead, her diplomatic training evident in her measured response. We recognize the potential necessity for cooperation given the nature of the key shards. However, we require assurances regarding your master's intentions once the temple is accessed. My master awaits on the planet's surface, Ventress replied, ignoring the implicit question. He suggests a meeting at these coordinates to discuss terms of our temporary alliance. Data streamed across their navigation console, indicating a location on the northern continent of Silix 3. Shaak examined the coordinates carefully. Within the mountain range indicated by the star map, but not at the temple itself. Interesting. A neutral meeting ground, Ventress explained. Arrive unarmed if you wish, it makes no difference. We'll be waiting. The transmission ended with characteristic abruptness. Obviously a trap, Ahsoka stated flatly. Obviously, Shaak agreed. Yet one we must spring if we're to proceed. The question is how to maintain advantage despite walking into their selected location. I have an idea, Naruto offered, forming his signature hand seal. One involving several dozen shadow clones and a technique I developed for infiltrating heavily guarded locations. As the Horizon Seeker descended toward Silix III's atmosphere, they refined their approach strategy. The planet below appeared largely temperate, with significant ocean coverage and two major continents. The northern continent featured the massive mountain range they sought, jagged peaks rising abruptly from forested foothills. Scans revealed minimal sentient population, primarily nomadic tribes in the lowlands with no permanent settlements near the coordinates Ventress had provided. The mountain zone itself generated unusual sensor readings, with energy patterns that defied standard Republic classification. The temple's defenses may already be affecting our instruments, Shaak observed as they entered the upper atmosphere. We should proceed with visual navigation from this point. The ship descended through cloud layers toward the meeting coordinates, revealing a dramatic landscape of sharp peaks and deep valleys. A natural plateau halfway up the tallest mountain provided sufficient flat ground for both vessels to land, though the thin air and gusty winds would make the approach challenging. There's Dooku's ship, Ahsoka pointed out as they neared the plateau. The distinctive solar sail vessel was already landed, its elegant design incongruous against the rugged mountainside. Shaak guided their ship to a landing position that maintained maximum tactical advantage, positioned for quick departure with clear sightlines in all directions. As the landing cycle completed, they made final preparations according to Naruto's plan. Remember, Shaak advised as they prepared to disembark, Count Dooku is not merely a political leader but a former Jedi Master turned Sith Lord. His command of the Force is exceptional, his lightsaber technique virtually unmatched. Do not underestimate him regardless of his cordial demeanor. And Ventress is lethal in her own right, Ahsoka added. She fights with dual lightsabers and uses Force techniques most Jedi wouldn't consider. Naruto nodded, mentally reviewing everything they'd shared about their adversaries. I'm ready. Let's see what they really want. The boarding ramp lowered to admit thin mountain air carrying the scent of mineral dust and native conifers. As they emerged onto the plateau, they observed two figures waiting midway between the vessels. One tall and distinguished with a precisely trimmed white beard and aristocratic bearing, the other the now familiar pale assassin Ventress. Master T, Padawan Tano, the older man gray. ETED them with cultured courtesy that didn't reach his eyes. And the mysterious visitor I've heard so much about. How fascinating to finally meet you, Naruto Uzumaki. Count Dooku, Shaak T acknowledged with formal correctness. Your interest in ancient force sites extends beyond politics, it seems. The Convergence temples transcend petty political concerns, Dooku replied smoothly. They are present knowledge that predates both Republic and separatist ideologies, knowledge that may prove essential to galactic survival. Interesting perspective from someone leading a war that's killed billions. Ahsoka noted with barely concealed contempt. Dooku's expression remained unperturbed. Youth so often confuses immediate conflict with ultimate purpose. The war serves necessary functions beyond your current understanding. Young Padawan, let's skip the philosophical debate, Naruto suggested, studying both Sith with careful assessment. You mentioned survival. You're talking about the Abyssal Ones, aren't you? Something flickered in Dooku's eyes, genuine surprise quickly masked. You are better informed than expected. Yes, the entities you name represent an existential threat to this galaxy and beyond. My master has foreseen their imminent return. Your master? Shaak T inquired, though her tone suggested she already suspected the answer. That need not concern you at present, Dooku deflected smoothly. What matters is our mutual interest in accessing the temple before us. He gestured toward the mountain's peak, where ancient stonework was just visible integrated into the natural rock. Ventress mentioned a key consisting of 3 shards, Naruto prompted, his hand moving to his pocket where his crystal fragment rested. Indeed, Dooku produced a crystal shard similar to Naruto's but darker, its internal structure seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. The key of resonance, 1 shard attuned to the light side, 1 to the dark, and 1 to the balance between. Together, they unlock the temple's outer chambers. And the 3rd shard, Shaak T asked, is why we're having this conversation, Ventress interjected. Our intelligence suggests it's hidden within the temple itself, a final test requiring cooperation between opposing force traditions. Convenient, Ahsoka observed skeptically. But logical, Dooku countered. The Convergence Ord, predated the schism between Jedi and Sith. They understood that true mastery of the Force required comprehension of all its aspects. His gaze settled on Naruto with disturbing intensity. Which makes your arrival particularly intriguing. You command energies that resonate with both light and dark, yet remain uncorrupted by either. You've been studying me, Naruto noted, unsurprised. Of course. Dooku's thin smile held no warmth. A being from another dimension wielding unknown powers appears precisely as ancient prophecies begin fulfilling themselves. Only a fool would ignore such synchronicity. The conversation paused as wind gusted across the plateau, carrying dust and small debris between them. In that moment, Naruto activated the first phase of his plan, a shadow clone transef. Formed to resemble a native bird took flight from behind their ship, circling high above to provide aerial reconnaissance. You still haven't explained what you hope to achieve by accessing the temple, Shaak T noted. Subtly shifting to maintain optimal positioning between Dooku and their vessel. The temples of convergence contain knowledge about the fundamental structure of reality, Dooku explained. His cultured voice taking on qualities of a university lecturer, including weaknesses in the barriers between dimensions. The Abyssal Ones exploit these weaknesses, feeding on the energy released when realities collide. And you believe the temple contains weapons against them, Naruto concluded. Not weapons in the conventional sense, Dooku corrected. Rather, methods to reinforce barriers, to repair what time and cosmic events have damaged. Events like my arrival, Naruto suggested. Precisely. Dooku's expression reflected something approaching genuine respect. Your transition between dimensions, while likely engineered by forces seeking to counter the Abyssal Ones, nonetheless created disturbances in the barrier. Disturbances that grow with each passing day. Naruto exchanged glances with his companions, silently communicating through subtle expressions. Despite their skepticism regarding Dooku's ultimate intentions, his explanation aligned with everything they'd learned so far. So you propose temporary alliance, Shaak T summarized. Combined resources to access the temple, locate the 3rd shard, and implement whatever methods it contains for strengthening dimensional barriers. After which we return to our respective sides of the galactic conflict, Dooku confirmed smoothly. The Abyssal Ones represent a threat that supersedes our political differences, Master T. Surely even the Jedi Council would acknowledge that necessity. And we're supposed to trust that you'll peacefully go your way once the temple's secrets are secured. Ahsoka asked incredulously. Trust is unnecessary, Ventress interjected. Mutual survival is sufficient motivation. Another gust of wind blew across the plateau, and Naruto received information from his heir. IAL clone. Confirmation that no additional forces lurked nearby, though the clone had detected unusual energy readings from the temple structure above them. What assurances can you offer that this isn't simply an elaborate trap? Shaak T asked Dooku directly. The Sith Lord considered before responding. I will send Ventress with you, while I remain with your vessel. A mutual exchange of insurance. Unacceptable, Ahsoka stated immediately. Your apprentice tried to kill younglings at the temple. Former apprentice, Dooku corrected mildly. Asajj now serves as my agent rather than th apprentice. A technical distinction but a meaningful one regarding certain behavioral constraints. Ventress. Expression revealed nothing, though Naruto sensed a complex mixture of emotions briefly surfaced before being suppressed. I can ensure she behaves appropriately, Dooku continued. And you'll find her knowledge of certain Sith techniques valuable when navigating the temple's outer defenses. Shaak T took a measured step forward. We counter-propose. Naruto and I will accompany Ventress to the temple entrance. Ahsoka remains with the ships, maintaining communication and ready to extract us if necessary. Dooku stroked his beard thoughtfully. Acceptable, with one modification. I shall accompany you as well. The Dark Shard responds most strongly to its master, and certain barriers may require my direct interaction. This development wasn't entirely unexpected, though it complicated their strategy. After a brief silent consultation, Shaak T nodded agreement. Then we are decided. When do we depart? Immediately, Dooku replied, gesturing toward a narrow path ascending from the plateau toward the peak. The temple's energy patterns shift with the binary stars' positions. The optimal alignment for entrance occurs in approximately 3 hours. With arrangements finalized, they prepared for the ascent. Ahsoka returned to the Horizon Seeker to establish a secure communication link, while Shaak T, Naruto, Dooku, and Ventress gathered necessary equipment for the climb. Remember, Shaak T murmured to Naruto as they packed climbing gear, maintain continuous awareness of their positions relative to yours. Count Dooku's lightsaber technique emphasizes precision strikes, maintain distance if conflict erupts. Got it, Naruto confirmed. And my shadow Clo, NES are already in position around the temple perimeter. If anything seems off, they'll intervene. The climb itself proved challenging even for force-enhanced individuals. The path narrowed to Triumvirate switchbacks across near vertical rock faces, with thin air making physical exertion increasingly difficult. Naruto adapted best, his shinobi training in mountainous terrain providing relevant experience. While Dooku showed surprising agility despite his age. As they ascended, the temple's presence grew more palpable, not merely visual but energetic, radiating patterns that resonated with both force and chakra senses. Ancient stonework emerged more prominently from the mountain's natural rock, revealing an architectural style that somehow combined elements recognizable from both Jedi and shinobi traditions. The craftsmanship is remarkable, Shaak T observed as they paused at a particularly impressive section where massive stone blocks had been fitted together without mortar, yet remained perfectly aligned after millennia of exposure. The Convergence Order understood principles of harmonizing structure with natural energy flows, Dooku explained, his academic interest momentarily overshadowing darker motivations. Their techniques incorporated the mountain's inherent properties rather than imposing artificial patterns. Like chakra flow points in the human body, Naruto noted, recognizing similarities to certain sealing techniques. Working with existing pathways instead of creating new ones. Dooku's gaze sharpened with interest. An apt comparison. Your understanding of energy systems is impressive for one so young. I had good teachers, Naruto replied neutrally, unwilling to elaborate further. They continued upward, the path finally leveling as they approached what appeared to be the temple's main entrance, a massive doorway twice human height, carved directly into the mountain face. The entrance was framed by intricate patterns that combined mathematical precision with artistic symbolism, culminating in the now familiar spiral seal positioned directly above the center. The nexus point, Ventress identified, her usually cold demeanor showing rare reverence. Just as the ancient texts described, as they approached the entrance, Naruto felt his crystal fragment grow warm in his pocket. Removing it, he found it glowing with increased intensity, responding to the temple's proximity. Dooku similarly produced his dark shard, which emitted a deep crimson luminescence that seemed to bend light around it rather than project outward. The resonance patterns are activating, Dooku observed. We must locate the correct alignment nodes. Upon closer inspection, the doorway revealed 3 distinctive indentations arranged in triangular formation, one near the top of the frame, the others at lower corners. Each indentation matched the approximate size and shape of the crystal shards they carried. The third position remains empty, Shaak noted, examining the lower right indentation. As expected, the texts suggest a preliminary activation sequence, Dooku explained, approaching the left indentation. Our shards should open the outer door, revealing the chamber containing the third shard. Only when all 3 are united can the inner sanctum be accessed. Naruto and Dooku positioned themselves at their respective alignment nodes, while Shaak and Ventress maintained vigilant positions several steps back, each clearly watching the other for any sign of betrayal. On my mark, Dooku instructed, raising his dark shard toward the indentation. The crystals must be inserted simultaneously to establish proper resonance. Naruto nodded, aligning his fragment with the upper indentation. Despite his distrust of Dooku, he sensed Ed the Sith Lord was correct about this technical aspect at least. 3, 2, 1, now. They inserted their crystal shards simultaneously. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Energy surged through the ancient stonework, illuminating previously invisible patterns across the entire temple facade. The spiral seal above the doorway blazed with golden light, while the massive stone doors began to retract into the mountain with surprising smoothness. Beyond lay darkness that gradually resolved into a vast circular chamber as lights activated in sequence, not electrical illumination but some form of crystalline structures embedded in the walls that responded to their presence. The chamber's dome ceiling rose at least 30 meters above, while the floor featured an intricate mosaic depicting what appeared to be a map of multiple interconnected realms. Magnificent, Shaak breathed, her usual reserve momentarily overcome by scholarly appreciation. The chamber contained no obvious furnishings or artifacts, only a central pedestal surrounded by concentric rings of symbols combining mathematical formulas with artistic representations of cosmic forces. Upon the pedestal rested a crystalline object approximately 20 centimeters tall, a pyramid-shaped structure reminiscent of a Jedi holocron but with distinctive differences in composition and energy signature. The Convergence Codex, Dooku identified reverently, the repository of the temple's primary knowledge systems. As they cautiously entered the chamber, the door remained open behind them, their crystal shards still embedded in the alignment nodes. Naruto extended his senses, confirming his shadow clones remained in position outside while scanning for potential traps within. The third shard, Ventress noted, pointing toward the base of the pedestal where a crystal fragment similar to their own but clear as pure water rested in a shallow depression. Just as the texts described, neither light nor dark but balanced between. Careful, Shaak cautioned as Naruto moved toward it. The ancient records spoke of trials and guardians protecting such artifacts. No sooner had she spoken than the chamber responded to their presence. The floor mosaic illuminated with soft blue light that gradually intensified, projecting upward to create a holographic representation of multiple interconnected spheres, a three-dimensional map of what appeared to be different dimensional planes. A voice spoke from everywhere and nowhere, similar to the holocron's message but more present, more aware. Unlike previous translations, this communication bypassed language entirely, conveying meaning directly to each listener in concepts rather than words. Seekers arrive as patterns align. 3 aspects approach the threshold. Evaluation protocols activate. The central pedestal descended into the floor, taking both the codex and the third crystal shard with it before anyone could react. Simultaneously, the chamber's single entrance sealed behind them, the massive stone doors closing with decisive finality. What's happening? Naruto demanded, automatically shifting to a defensive stance. The temple's guardian system, Dooku replied, his composure unshaken despite the development. As expected, the trials begin. The holographic display shifted, focusing on 3 specific nodes within its complex network. Each node expanded to reveal distinct imagery, one showing serene landscapes bathed in golden light, another depicting turbulent storms and volcanic landscapes under crimson skies, and the third displaying balanced ecosystems where light and shadow coexisted in perfect harmony. To proceed, each must demonstrate understanding of their aspect's true nature, the voice continued. Not as defined by dogma, but as experienced through direct perception. The floor beneath them reconfigured, creating 3 distinct pathways leading to separate doorways that had materialized in the chamber walls. Each doorway corresponded to one of the nodes displayed in the hologram. Choose according to resonance, not desire. False paths lead to dissolution. It's testing our understanding of force aspects, Shaak realized. Light, dark, and balance. A primitive but effective authentication system, Dooku noted, studying the pathways with clinical detachment. The temple verifies we Yuli represent the aspects our crystal shards embody. Naruto examined the 3 doorways, sensing distinct energy signatures from each. The left radiated serene light reminiscent of Jedi meditation chambers. The right pulsed with powerful but controlled darkness similar to what he'd sensed from Dooku and Ventress. The center, however, called to him specifically, its energy neither strictly light or dark but a complex interweaving of both that felt strangely familiar. I think our paths are pretty clear, he observed. Shaak takes the light, Dooku the dark, and I follow the middle road. Agreed, Dooku confirmed, already moving toward the right doorway. Ventress will accompany me. The trial may require specific Sith techniques. Be mindful, Shaak cautioned before they separated. Whatever challenges these pathways present, remember our shared objective. We reconvene here once the trials are complete. With this understanding, they approached their respective doorways. As Naruto reached the central threshold, he sensed something scanning him, evaluating not merely his physical presence but his entire energy signature, including Kurama's. This is old technology, he Fox observed within their shared mindscape. But sophisticated beyond anything in our world. It's reading our combined chakra patterns at a fundamental level. Looking for what? Naruto asked mentally. Balance. Kurama replied. True balance. Not merely absence of conflict, but harmony between opposing forces. The doorway activated as Naruto stepped through, sealing behind him and leaving him in momentary darkness. Then, gradually, illumination returned, not from any visible source but from the environment itself beginning to materialize around him. He found himself standing in a landscape that defied physical logic, a place where forest and desert coexisted side by side without transition, where water flowed upward as readily as downward, where day and night occupied the same sky in perfect division. Welcome, Balanced One, came the voice, now more distinct and somehow younger than before. Your trial begins where opposites meet without merging, where distinction remains while harmony prevails. Before Naruto could respond, the environment shifted again. The impossible landscape dissolved, replaced by a scene he recognized instantly despite its impossibility, the Valley of the End. Where he had fought Sasuke years ago. The massive statues of Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju faced each other across the waterfall, eternal symbols of rivalry and broken friendship. But something was wrong. The statues were crumbling, the waterfall running red with what appeared to be blood, the sky above torn by dimensional rifts similar to what he'd experienced during his transition to this galaxy. Balance disrupted leads to dissolution of boundaries, the voice explained. What was sundered seeks reunification through destruction. What will you do, Balanced One? Naruto realized this was no mere illusion but a symbolic representation of actual events, the weakening barriers between dimensions that Dooku had described. The Valley of the End served as mental interface, translating cosmic concepts into imagery his mind could process. How do I restore balance? He asked, addressing the temple's intelligence directly. Not through dominance of one aspect over another, came the reply. Nor through elimination of difference. True balance acknowledges distinction while fostering harmony. As the voice spoke, two figures materialized on either side of the valley, shadowy representations of light and darkness given humanoid form. They fought with increasing violence, each seeking to eliminate the other, unaware or uncaring that their conflict widened the dimensional rifts with every exchange. Naruto understood the metaphor immediately. Moving to the center of the valley, he channeled chakra simultaneously from himself and Kurama, creating a distinctive variation of the Rasengan that combined their energies in perfect balance, not tailed beast chakra overwhelming his own, nor his chakra suppressing Kurama's, but true partnership exemplified in spiraling harmony. The balanced Rasengan grew between his palms, neither golden yellow like his sage chakra nor crimson like Kurama's, but a perfect violet that contained both while transcending either. Balance isn't absence of power, Naruto stated, directing his technique not against either combatant but toward the dimensional rifts themselves. It's the harmony of powers united in purpose. The Rasengan expanded as he released it upward, its perfectly balanced energy interacting with the rifts in a way neither light nor darkness alone could achieve. Where the energy touched the tears in reality, they began to mend. Not forced closed through dominance, but gently urged toward natural healing through harmonized influence. The shadowy combatants paused in their battle, observing the effect with apparent surprise. As the rifts began closing, they turned toward Naruto with newfound awareness. Understanding demonstrated, the voice acknowledged with evident approval. Balanced one recognizes that opposition need not mean destruction, that differences strengthen the whole when properly harmonized. The environment shifted once more, the valley of the end dissolving into mist that gradually reformed into a simple circular chamber. At its center floated the third crystal shard, clear as water but containing internal structures that shifted between light and darkness without favoring either. Take what resonates with your nature, balanced one. The final key awaits completion. Naruto approached cautiously, extending his senses to verify no traps remained. The crystal shard pulsed in harmony with his chakra, acknowledging him as its rightful bearer. As his fingers closed around it, he felt an immediate connection, stronger even than with the light shard he'd found in the temple on Coruscant. This one recognizes us both, Kurama noted with rare wonder. It's responding to our combined chakra signature. With the balanced shard secured, the chamber's far wall dissolved to reveal a passage leading back toward the central rotunda. Naruto followed it, emerging into the main chamber where Shaak already waited, her expression serene despite slight signs of exertion. You succeeded, she observed, noting the crystal in his hand. As did you, it seems, Naruto replied, sensing subtle changes in her force signature, as if her trial had deepened her connection to the light side in ways traditional Jedi training hadn't achieved. My path was illuminating, she acknowledged with typical understatement. The temple's understanding light transcends orthodox Jedi teaching in certain fundamental aspects. Before Naruto could inquire further, the third doorway opened to admit Dooku and Ventress. The Sith Lord appeared unchanged by his experience, his aristocratic composure intact, though Naruto sensed turbulence beneath the surface. Ventress, however, showed visible alteration, her usual cold detachment replaced by uncomfortable self-awareness. Her movements less predatory and more measured. The trials are complete, Dooku announced, his gaze fixing immediately on the crystal in Naruto's hand. You've acquired the balance shard, as expected. What happens now? Naruto asked, instinctively closing his fingers around the crystal protectively. As if responding to his question, the central pedestal rose once more from the floor. The Convergence Codex still positioned atop it. The three indentations around its base glowed with expectant energy, one golden, one crimson, one clear. The triumvirate approaches completion, the temple's voice announced. When the shards unite, the codex awakens. Choose with wisdom, for what activates cannot be undone. Our crystal shards remain in the entrance mechanism, Shaak observed. How can we proceed without them? The outer door served merely as preliminary authentication, Dooku explained. Now that we've passed the trials, our original shards are no longer required for that purpose. They should be recoverable. As if confirming his assessment, sections of the wall near each trial doorway reconfigured to reveal their original crystal shards, now removed from the entrance mechanism. Shaak retrieved the light shard while Dooku reclaimed the dark, each crystal responding to its bearer's energy signature. They gathered around the central pedestal, the tension between them momentarily suspended by shared purpose. The Codex awaited activation, its crystalline structure containing knowledge that might save multiple realities, or potentially doom them if misused. Together, then, Dooku suggested, positioning his dark shard above its corresponding indentation. As three aspects in harmony, if not in allegiance, Shaak and Naruto moved to their respective positions, each holding their crystal shard ready. Despite his distrust of Dooku, Naruto sensed the necessity of this moment, the culmination of paths that had converged across dimensions. On 3, Naruto suggested, receiving nods from both Jedi and Sith. 1, 2, 3. They placed their crystals simultaneously into the indentations. The effect transcended spectacular energy, cascaded through the chamber in waves of light, darkness, and balanced harmony. The Codex itself rose from the pedestal, hovering at eye level as its pyramidal structure reconfigured, corners unfolding like a blossoming flower to reveal a complex internal mechanism surrounding a central core of pure energy. Holographic displays materialized around them, showing star maps, dimensional diagrams, mathematical formulas, and symbolic representations beyond easy comprehension. The temple's voice spoke again, but now with greater depth and nuance. The Convergence Codex activates after 7,000 cycles of dormancy. Authentication protocols verified. Access granted to triumvirate representatives. Warning. Dimensional integrity compromised. Abyssal corruption detected in multiple nexus points. Containment priority maximum. Dooku stepped forward, his academic interest momentarily overwhelming political calculation. Codex. Identify primary dimensional breach points and optimal stabilization protocols. The holographic displays shifted, focusing on specific coordinates across multiple star systems. To Naruto's shock, one location displayed was unmistakably the Valley of the End F. Rom, his own world, the exact spot where he had battled Kashyyyk before his dimensional displacement. Primary breach. Elemental dimension, Convergence Point Alpha. Secondary breach. Outer Rim territories, Mustafar's system. Tertiary breach. Unknown regions, coordinates inaccessible without updated stellar cartography. 3 breach points, Shaak observed, corresponding to the 3 temples of convergence mentioned in the holocron. And 3 aspects required to seal them, Dooku added, his expression revealing genuine concern beneath the usual aristocratic mask. Light, darkness, and balance working in concert. Naruto studied the display showing his homeworld, emotions conflicting as he realized both the danger and opportunity it represented. That first breach point, that's my world. The place I was fighting when I got pulled here. Confirmation. Dimensional transit originated at primary breach during containment failure. Automatic protocols activated emergency contingency. Balanced aspect transport to secondary dimension for triumvirate reconstitution. It wasn't an accident, Naruto realized, the pieces finally connecting. The temple's systems detected the breach W. Kashyyyk was sealed and deliberately pulled me here to help form this triumvirate thing. A failsafe mechanism designed by the Convergence Order, Dooku concluded with reluctant admiration. Elegant in its simplicity, yet remarkably prescient in its execution. But why me specifically? Naruto questioned. Balanced aspect candidate parameters. Connection to ancient energy pattern designated, tailed beast chakra. Demonstrated harmonization with opposed forces, proximity to primary breach during vulnerability window. Candidate. Uzumaki Naruto matched all required parameters with 97.3% resonance efficiency. In other words, Shaak translated, you were quite literally the perfect candidate, in the right place, with the right abilities, at precisely the right moment. Lucky me, Naruto muttered, though without real bitterness. If this truly represented a path home while simultaneously protecting both realms, he couldn't regret being chosen. Dooku turned from the displays to face Naruto and Shaak directly. His expression uncharacteristically grave. This changes the parameters of our arrangement. The situation is more critical than even my master anticipated. Your mysterious master who foresaw the Abyssal One's return. Ahsoka's voice came unexpectedly from the chamber entrance, which had apparently unsealed itself when the Codex activated. Convenient how much. He seems to know about ancient threats while remaining safely anonymous. All turned to see Ahsoka entering the chamber, lightsabers drawn but not activated. Her expression conveyed both relief at finding her companions alive and deep suspicion toward Dooku. Padawan Tano, the Count acknowledged with barely concealed irritation. Your presence was not required for this phase of exploration. Communication went dead after you entered, Ahsoka explained, moving to stand beside Shaak. Protocol suggested investigating when unable to re-establish contact. A reasonable precaution, Shaak approved. And fortunate timing. We've made significant discoveries that require immediate council consultation. Indeed, Dooku agreed with surprising equanimity. Though I suspect your Count C.L. and my master may reach different conclusions regarding implementation strategy. Your master, Naruto repeated, studying Dooku carefully. The same one who orchestrated this war. The one who somehow knew about these temples and the abyssal ones. Who exactly are we talking about? A subtle shift occurred in Dooku's demeanor. Microscopic changes in posture and expression that nonetheless radiated sudden danger. Ventress moved closer to him, her own body language suggesting readiness for conflict despite her earlier discomfort. My master's identity is irrelevant to our immediate concerns, Dooku stated flatly. What matters is securing the codex and implementing containment protocols before dimensional breaches expand beyond repair capability. I disagree, Shaak countered calmly. If we're to form this triumvirate effectively, transparency regarding all participants seems essential. The temple itself authenticated us as individuals, not as representatives of hidden masters. The tension in the chamber escalated as Dooku considered his response, calculations visibly racing behind his composed exterior. Finally, he straightened to his full impressive height, decision apparently reached. My master is Darth Sidious, Lord of the Sith and architect of current galactic events, he stated with surprising directness. His identity in political circles remains concealed by necessity. But his awareness of the abyssal threat predates my own by decades. And we're supposed to trust that this Sith Lord wants to save reality rather than exploit dimensional breaches for power. Ahsoka asked incredulously. The abyssal ones consume all reality they touch, Dooku replied with unexpected vehemence. Even Sith have no desire to rule over devoured nothingness. Self-interest aligns with universal preservation in this singular instance. Before further debate could unfold, the Codex projected new information, detailed schematics for devices designed to stabilize dimensional breaches, alongside implementation protocols requiring precise placement at each breach point. Warning: breach expansion accelerating. Projected critical threshold in 73 standard cycles. Implementation of containment protocols required at all 3 nexus points simultaneously for effective seal restoration. 73 days, Shaak translated. Barely enough time to reach each breach point, even with fastest available transport. And we need representatives of all 3 aspects at each location, Naruto added, studying the schematics carefully. This won't work if we split up the triumvirate. Dooku's expression darkened with genuine concern. A significant logistical challenge, particularly given the political complexities involved. You mean the war you and your master started? Ahsoka asked pointedly. Political realities exist regardless of origin, Dooku replied smoothly. The Republic will not simply grant separatist representatives free passage to these locations. Nor will separatist territories welcome Republic military vessels. Then perhaps neutral representatives are required, Shaak suggested thoughtfully. Individuals authenticated by the temple itself rather than political entities. All eyes turned to Naruto, the implication clear. As someone from outside their galaxy's conflict, he represented the most neutral possible agent for this mission. I can't be in 3 places simultaneously, he pointed out, though even as he spoke, a potential solution occurred to him. Unless what? Ventress prompted, breaking her uncharacteristic silence. My shadow clones retain independence over great distances, Naruto explained, formulating the idea as he spoke. And they can maintain solid form for days with sufficient chakra investment. If I created specialized clones for each breach point, would they maintain the balanced aspect authentication? Dooku questioned. The temple's systems are quite specific regarding energy signatures. They would, Kurama interjected through Naruto, momentarily surprising everyone as his voice emerged from Naruto's mouth, deeper and more resonant than the young shinobi's normal tone. My chakra divides with each clone, maintaining the balanced signature required. Dooku's eyes widened fractionally, the Sith equivalent of open-mouthed shock. Fascinating. Psi. MBIOTIC consciousness with independent cognition yet unified energy pattern. That's Kurama, Naruto explained as the fox receded. And he's right, my shadow clones would qualify as balanced aspect representatives. But we'd still need light and dark aspects for each location. I will represent the light at the primary breach point, Shaak offered without hesitation. If this truly leads to your homeworld, my presence as a Jedi Master might help establish diplomatic relations between our galaxies. A compelling argument, Dooku acknowledged. Though it leaves the question of dark aspect representatives. I cannot personally attend all locations, and Ventress, while formidable, does not register as a full dark aspect according to temple parameters. An uncomfortable silence followed, as they confronted the logistical reality. Even if personal disagreements could be set aside, the practical challenges remained daunting. Alternative authentication protocol available, the Codex suddenly announced. Aspect transference permits temporary authentication sharing through crystal resonance bonding. Limitation. Transference duration 72 standard cycles maximum before signature degradation. Crystal resonance bonding, Ahsoka questioned. A method to temporarily transfer authentication credentials, Dooku translated, academic interest overriding political caution. Essentially, I could empower representatives to act with dark aspect authority for a limited time. Just long enough to implement the containment protocols, Shaak noted. Convenient timing. Oh, our intelligent design by the original creators, Dooku countered. They clearly anticipated potential scenarios where full triumvirate assembly might prove challenging. Further discussion was PTED as the temple itself trembled, not from seismic activity but from some energetic disturbance that rippled through the structure. The holographic displays flickered momentarily before stabilizing show new information. A dimensional breach had suddenly expanded at the tertiary location in the unknown regions. Warning. Anomalous breach expansion detected. Energy signature consistent with abyssal intrusion attempt. Containment priority maximum. They're becoming active, Dooku stated grimly. The Abyssal Ones sense our discovery of the temple and are accelerating their efforts. How would they know? Ahsoka questioned suspiciously. Because they exist partially outside conventional space-time, Ventress explained, her voice uncharacteristically subdued. They perceive ripples in reality differently than we do. The Codex activation would register as a significant disturbance. Naruto exchanged glances with Shaak, silent communication passing between them. Despite their justified suspicion of Dooku and the Sith agenda, the evidence before them suggested the threat was both real and imminent. Political considerations seemed suddenly insignificant compared to the preservation of multiple realities. We need to make a decision, Naruto stated firmly. Whatever our differences, whatever political games are happening in this galaxy, my world is in danger too. I'm not letting it be consumed by these abyssal things because we couldn't work together. His declaration hung in the chamber, simple yet powerful in its conviction. Shaak nodded agreement, her own resolve evident despite Jedi reserve. The Jedi Council must be informed, she stated, but I concur with Naruto's assessment. This threat transcends our ongoing conflict. All eyes turned to Dooku, whose calculating expression suggested complex considerations beyond immediate crisis response. Finally, he inclined his head in formal acknowledgement. I propose the following arrangement. I shall consult with my master regarding dark aspect representatives while you consult your council. We reconvene in 3 standard days with implementation plans for all 3 breach points. His gaze fixed on Naruto. Our young friend here prepares specialized shadow clones for each location, and we proceed according to Codex specifications. And the Codex itself? Shaak inquired. It cannot remain unprotected. It stays here, Naruto suggested decisively. The temple's defenses have protected it for thousands of years. We extract the information we need but leave the Codex in its intended sanctuary. Somewhat to his surprise, both Dooku and Shaak nodded agreement with this proposal. The Codex, sensing their consensus, began downloading specific implementation data to devices they carried, Dooku's personal datapad. Shaak Tis Jedi communicator, and somewhat surprisingly, directly into Naruto's chakra network through resonance with his balanced crystal shard. Implementation specifications transferred, triumvirate authentication recorded, convergence codex returning to dormancy state until full triumvirate reconvenes. The holographic displays receded as the codex folded back into its original pyramidal form, settling onto the central pedestal. The three crystal shards, however, remained with their respective bearers, now permanently bonded to their energy signatures. 3 days. Dooku confirmed as they prepared to depart. We shall maintain communication protocols through secure channels. He turned to Naruto with unexpected directness. Your world's fate now intertwines irrevocably with ours, young Uzumaki. A responsibility I don't envy, but one I believe you're uniquely qualified to bear. The backhanded compliment surprised Naruto, though he recognized manipulation when he heard it. Just keep your end of the bargain, Count. My shadow clones will be ready. As they exited the temple, returning to the harsh mountain environment outside, Naruto felt the weight of multiple worlds settling on his shoulders. Yet alongside responsibility came something he'd nearly abandoned: hope of returning home, of seeing his friends again, of continuing the life interrupted by dimensional displacement. The path forward remained fraught with uncertainty and potential betrayal, but for the first time since arriving in this galaxy, Naruto could envision a route back to the elemental nations. That alone made the risk worthwhile. The binary stars of the Silix system cast dual shadows as they descended the mountain path, one golden yellow, one reddish, overlapping to see. Create a third shadow deeper than either alone. Like the aspects they now represented, these shadows told a story of separation and potential unity, of balance found where opposition meets with purpose. Whether that purpose would ultimately serve light, darkness, or the balance between remained to be seen. Chapter 3 End. The End. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.